day is changing, that Washington date was changing around. Okay.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Grand County Council to order. It is June 6th, I believe, yes, 2017, 4 p.m., and I'm wondering if we can get Sheriff White to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Sheriff White.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have 5 listed. I don't believe we have any, correct? Okay. So let's go with the ratification of payment of bills.
All right, this is a good one. Let's see. So I move to ratify the payment of the bills for June 6, 2017. Total bills, $1,511,031.95. Total payroll, $200,712.24 for a total of $1,711,744.19.
Thank you. Chris has made the motion. Curtis seconds the motion to ratify the payment of the bills. Total for June 6, 2017, total bills in the amount of $1,511,031.95. Total payroll in the amount of $200,712.24. Total bills and payroll $1,711,744.19. Any discussion? We will take a roll call vote. Mr. Halliday.
Aye.
Evans. Aye. Curtis.
Aye.
Hawks, yes.
Paxman, yes.
Paxman, yes.
Baird, yes.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you. And Mary is, I might mention, is excused today. So she will not be joining us. Okay, next on the agenda, elected officials report. And Diana has a guest to introduce and a special presentation to make.
Thank you. This is Doug Folsom with Utah Local Governments Trust.
Welcome.
Thank you. With the trust, I am a loss prevention consultant. I work with Grand County, trying to prevent unwanted claims for your liability as well as workers' compensation programs. And one of the things that we do in this is we have an award that we give out to members that implement certain best practices and programs for safety and to control liability that we call the Trust Accountability Program Award, TAP for short. And this is, I believe, the 3rd year in a row that we've awarded Grand County with the award. So I have a presentation piece here to do that. In addition to this, lovely acrylic crystal here that we have for you, the county also receives about $10,000 in extra benefits that go along with receiving this award. There's a cash award as well as discounting on the workers' compensation premium. So now that this is the 3rd year in a row that this has been received, that discounting on the workers' comp goes up a little bit more to the ceiling that we offer for TAP recipients. The program requires an active safety committee that's engaged in several different functions, including incident investigations, safety training, self-audit
Well, out of those 100 that have received the award, how many have done it 3 years in a row?
Not very many, because to have it 3 years in a row, you would have had to have been in year 2, and in year 2, we only had about 30 members finish it in year 2, so that would be about, 25 to 30. So, good
Well
job.
done, thank you. And thanks to Grand County staff, and thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other elected official reports? Sheriff? Okay. Council administrators report, Ruth.
Okay, yes, thank you. I want to just add real quick to that that TAP award. The safety committee is working diligently and has been for probably a solid year on updating our fleet policy. And
what policy?
our fleet policy. So we will get that to you all before too long. We're not quite ready. But several of the committee members are in the room. So just so you know. And that is done by resolution adopted by the council a while back. Other than that, I want to report, you all have heard about this by your email, and you've probably heard it buzzing around, but there has been an award received by Zachariah as the Community Development Director, and Caitlin Myers, who is the VISTA in his department, and it was a Your Utah, Your Future award. So I wanted to publicly acknowledge them for that. This is for the creation of the online community resource guide, and also the Interlocal Housing Task Force won the award as well for updating the housing plan. And that's the moabhousing.com and moabhousingplan.com websites. And so those are useful for our community members to know about, and want to just publicly acknowledge you guys. Thank you.
And may I add to that Caitlin was also the writer of our Grand County Intergenerational Poverty Plan that was just turned in on July 2nd. And we will be bringing that to the council. The state will be giving their input, and I'd like to bring that to the council too, because she did a fantastic job. She made the committee, all of us, look like a bunch of clear thinkers.
Great.
Okay, and that's it?
That's it
for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Department reports. No takers. Agency reports. And that brings us to citizens to be heard on a topic that is not on the agenda. And I see no one coming forward. Presentations, none. We've moved right along to our general business and action items. Item F, authorizing submission of a cash match required grant application to the Utah Office of Tourism for a cooperative marketing project, 2018 for Southern California. This is a phone. Okay, is it Elaine? Okay, we'll have Elaine Gisler joining us by phone. Hi, Elaine. This is Jaylyn Hawks, Grand County Council. You are on speakerphone, and we are to Agenda Item F regarding the grant application to the Utah Office of Tourism. Do you want to tell us about that?
Well, thank you for calling me.
You're welcome. Thanks for answering.
What I'm submitting, let me just open up my paperwork here. What I'm submitting, I'm requesting authorization of a cash match required grant application to the Utah Office of Tourism for advertising, radio, television, and then a big social media campaign. Because the costs are relatively high in Southern California, in LA and surrounding communities, we would need the support of the state to carry out the program. And since the market is a drive market and people can get to Moab within a day's drive, I think the demographics, the fact that it is a drive market, is much better for us to focus on than continuing to focus more in Northern California. So that is my request.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the council? Curtis?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Curtis is ready to make a motion.
I move to approve the authorization of the Travel Council to move forward with a Utah Office of Tourism Cooperative Marketing Grant application in the amount of $275,000, would then be matching from the Travel Council 2018 advertising budget, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Okay, Curtis has made the motion. Do we have a second? Chris is seconding the motion. Discussion?
Can I just have one clarification? Is it, Elaine, is it the 2018 budget that this will hit, or is it 2017? The fiscal impact section says 2017.
No, it will impact 2018. So when the budget begins in the advertising won't start until January, so everything would begin, because we're trying to focus on the shoulder season. So it would be January, February, and early March, and then it would flow into October, November, December of 2018. So it will all fall in 2018. However, if the funding is approved by the state, they'll review my request. They won't know till July. If it's approved, then what they'll do is pay half of the funding this year. We'll receive it, and then the other half in 2018. But this is the way the process is, because the state runs on a fiscal calendar versus a calendar year.
So, Elaine, do you have the motion in front of you?
Yes.
Would you just read that carefully and make sure that's what is meant, especially in terms of when the fiscal matching amounts will come from the budget? It just seemed to conflict with the summary.
The actual fiscal impact will come out of 2018 budget, the whole $275,000.
Okay, and then the match amount from the Travel Council, when does it?
Will come out of 2018 budget.
Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. Ready for a vote? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0, Elaine. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Have fun in D.C.
Okay, item G is approving proposed contract award to purchase Honda CRF 250 liter motorcycle for EMS services. We have Andy Smith, our EMS director, here.
Hello. So, it's pretty simple. We've been using motorcycles for 15 years to staff events, and we ended up, I'm sure it was brought up in the past, but there's some issues with using personal motorcycles to staff a county event, obviously, with liability and such. So after looking at all of the options, we felt it was best to just purchase a motorcycle. The money will be made back on what we make on the event anyways. So that's what we did. We went forward and collected bids and decided that Jorgensen's gave us the best option. All the bids were within a couple $100. Jorgensen gave us the best option on a newer vehicle for the same price as the 2016. So that's it.
Question? Motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Curtis?
I move to approve the proposed contract to Jorgensen's Honda for the purchase of a 2017 Honda CRF 250 in the amount of $5,150, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Curtis has made the motion. Mr. Halliday, Greg is seconding the motion. Any more discussion?
I would just like to clarify. Usually you all don't see anything unless it's $10,000 or more. This is an asset for the county, and so even though it's not in writing anywhere, we're putting that before you since it's a county asset.
Okay, thank you. favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item H is approving proposed contract award to purchase Kawasaki Mule Pro FXT EPS 6-passenger UTV and accessories for Sandflats. We have Andrea Brand here, the Director of Sandflats.
And you do have
Recreation.
something on the dais in front of you on that.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity to come before you today. What we're trying to do is replace our 2005 Polaris Ranger. And we looked at another Polaris as we bought in 2014. We looked at the state contracts, and the Kawasaki Mule was about $1,100 cheaper than the Polaris, and we think it's going to do just as well. They're very comparable in their abilities. A lot of the, there's a few outfitters that use them, and they've been real happy with them on the Hell's Revenge Trail. And so we thought we'd try the Kawasaki. As we said, they're both. We looked at the state contract for the Polaris and the state contract for the Kawasaki, and the Kawasaki was $1,100 less. And this also includes not just the Kawasaki, but all the accessories that would help us make it street legal, so that we can not have to load it up to take it up the hill from our office, and not have to put it on a trailer and just be able to drive back and forth, which is the way we operate with our six-wheeler and our current 2005. They are street legal. And the other thing is we would like to, I don't have this on here, but we'd like to transfer the 2005 over to another county department, and I was talking, I don't know how that all works, who would get it, but I know that Marvin could use it for the bike path. So we'd be happy to transfer that over.
So that would happen actually during...
Do that internally.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Anyway, I just was talking to him today, so it's nice that we can do that. But anyways, I'm here today for approval to see if we can get this Kawasaki, and I'm a little bit over what was budgeted. We budgeted $14,500. It's coming in with the accessories at $14,693. We could take $193 out of capital improvements to a small amount to cover that.
Okay, thank you. Motion, discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Halliday makes the motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed purchase of a Kawasaki Mule Pro FXT EPS 6-passenger UTV and accessories for Sandflats through state contract with RMT Equipment of Salt Lake City, Utah. Authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Evan seconds the motion. Any more discussion?
Do you have a throttle down in town sticker to put on it?
Well, we could do that. We do have the throttle down placards up at Sandflats everywhere, but yeah, we've had our Polaris since 2005, so we need the UTVs to go patrol the trails and do maintenance on the trails. The other thing I didn't say, it says 6-passenger, but does fold down so that you have a lot of space for your equipment. So that's usually the way it would be used, but now we can haul more people if we need to.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Okay, item J is ratifying the chair's signature on an application sent to the Permanent Community Impact Fund Board for potential funding and design and construction of a detention basin for Jackson Street mitigation.
Do you want to go back to item I first?
Oh, I had that one scratched off. Okay, the sheriff is here for item I, approving proposed contract award for purchase of jail dispatch furniture.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm covering for Rick today. Rick's actually out on a DOT hazmat study on I-70, so they're watching trucks for 24 hours.
Oh, fun.
Oh, boy. Yeah, what this is, if you guys haven't seen it, it's the new dispatch consoles that are going to be replaced when everything goes back into the jail. They're going to be covered out of the E911 funds in the amount of $27,507.50. That's pretty self-explanatory, so is there any questions or anything on them, or?
Not on that, no. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Curtis?
I move to approve the procurement for the Zebix in the amount of $20,507.50, who has a Utah State purchasing contract number MA2355AMDZ for jail dispatch furniture, and authorize chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Curtis has made the motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Halliday? Any more discussion? And we're ready for a vote. All in favor, raise your hands. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
You bet.
And now, am I allowed to ask if you have an update on the jail?
Yes, you are. Matter of fact,
Even though
the
it's
last
not on the agenda.
the last contractors meeting that we went to, they're saying the end of August, 1st of September, we should be back.
Wow.
So they're gonna finish about a month ahead of schedule. 2 months.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we're ready to be back.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
If you haven't have a chance to go look through. It's totally,
Okay.
Set something up if you guys wanna go look.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to is Bill here? I don't see Bill. Who's presenting this?
Haven't heard anything.
Ratifying the chair's signature on an application, and do you know why, never mind, I'll just finish this. Ratifying the chair's signature on an application sent to the Permanent Community Impact Fund Board for potential funding of design and construction of a detention basis for Jackson Street Mitigation Phase 1.
I can't remember right now why we didn't put that on the consent agenda. Obviously, we've already had the public hearing on this, and this was just a follow-on. But it is big enough and important enough to discuss it. Maybe that's why. So we are, let's see if I can read this. The fiscal impact would be, I'm having a hard time reading it, $241,375 and some change in CIB grant if we get it, and equal amount in stormwater mitigation fund put up by the county as the match, with a total estimated project of $482,751. That application was due June 1st, which is why we asked the chair to sign it before today's date. And this is for the Jackson Street drainage project, first phase.
So this is Grand County can get these funds.
But I think we risk, losing some health money if we do.
Municipal Building Authority can't deal with these kind of things?
There's a little bit of a hiccup with the building authority doing it because it's not on our land. It's, unsafe, BLM land. Had a little discussion with Bill, but I think didn't you guys tell him at the public hearing to go ahead and submit it? And see what,
That's my
that was what I
He was,
recall.
yeah. I
Well,
think we
I'm
left
just-
it kind of either way.
I'm just wondering, if the process is right is all.
And either entity can hold the public hearing,
Okay.
I do know that, but,
All right, well, I guess, we should look into, whether or not it's possible to do it through the Municipal Building Authority in the end, It's just not possible.
no, that's what I was told by Candace.
All right. Well, just have to keep our fingers crossed. I mean, the only other thing that I'd have to say, I think that we only have $200,000 so far, so there's $41,375.61 that we'll have to budget for, in addition to what we've already put into the stormwater mitigation fund.
When does that all come due?
Well, it's actually more than that, Chris, because we've spent a little bit of money on the, engineering.
Okay. So when will we need to come up with that? As soon as we sign on the loan or the
When we close, yeah, but
close?
it would be grant because there's not a revenue stream for the loan.
And
I guess that would be this year. So we're gonna probably have to address that at some point. Would we have to do a hearing to change the budget, or could we, what do you think, Diana?
Well, if this is June, do they have the funding every other month? The funding meeting for CIB?
I think it's up to 4 months later, past the June 1st deadline, right? So it could be, the funding meeting could be as late as October.
So we could
With CIB.
address it through our regular budget process, I think.
All right. Well, either way, it's not, we're have to come up with money, but I think we can. But I just wanted to let everyone know that that would be a part of it.
Okay, any other comments, questions? I would entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion.
Greg?
Move to ratify the chair's signature on an application to the Permanent Community Impact Fund Board, CIB, for potential funding of design and construction of a detention basin for Jackson Street mitigation, Phase 1. Authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Greg's made the motion. Do we have a second? Curtis seconds the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, item K is approving proposed data release agreement with independent researcher Dr. Tim Graham for the purpose of performing analyses to determine patterns of tamarisk beetle movements, population dynamics, effects of beetles on tamarisks, and the like. Tim Higgs, our weed supervisor, will present this.
We'll probably be coming with a few more of these to you as soon as we get more information on exactly what is going to be requested with it. But this is a lot of data to be analyzed, and it's, Dr. Graham has a lot of research experience with analyzing stuff statistically. So that's why we're asking, he's requesting it, as well as the Southeastern Utah Riparian Partnership is actually requesting a report. And I think they're looking over the next 2 years, and some of this information would be in that report.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Motions?
I make a motion to approve the proposed data release agreement for the release of the Weed Department's tamarisk beetle research data to Dr. Tim Graham for reports and educational presentations and for peer-reviewed journal publications, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Chris has made the motion. Rory seconds the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. And you also have the next item, item L, approving proposed grant contract with the Utah Weed Supervisor Association for noxious weed control of Canadian thistle.
Yeah, we're trying to be able to get, since in Grand County there isn't been a lot of Canada thistle, so we're trying to be able to eliminate what we're finding. We actually found one this morning over in the Matheson wetlands that we didn't know about, so and we know that we're finding a couple along the river corridors and some of the islands. So this is the way to be able to do it. It can't be used on federal land, but it can be on private and state lands for the dollar amount. So it helps the taxpayers as well as the state of Utah.
Okay, thank you. Rory?
Make a motion. I move to approve the proposed contract with the Utah Weed Supervisor Association for the grant to control Canadian thistle in the Grand County and provide the state lands, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Rory's made the motion. Do we have a second? Chris seconds the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Okay, item M is ratifying the chair's signature on a waiver of building permit application fees for storage garage at Canyonlands Field Airport. Judd Hill, Airport Manager.
Okay, this is associated with the expansion of the terminal. I can give you a 30-second rundown of that when we're done, just instead of a department report. But this is the first thing. We need to build a new storage garage so that we can remove an existing storage garage, which is where the new terminal will be expanded to. That building has been ordered. The design is under review by the building committee, and this is for waiving the fee associated with that building permit, because specifically we're paying to build the building. We won't, if we charge a building fee, he'll just send us a bill and then we'd have to pay him right back. So we're just waiving the fee. That permit is currently under review by the building department. It will be finished this week. I met with the building department for a while this morning, and although it's not completely finalized yet, the best estimate as of earlier today was $1,745 and change is the cost of this building permit. Yes. It's lower than others because there's not associated impact fees for the airport district, since it's out there on our property. So it's a little bit lower than you would get for a similar square footage of a residential or something like that. We will have those finalized numbers as soon as the building department completely finishes, but our goal is to get this moving as quickly as possible. They're about ready to go. They were actually ready earlier this week, but we're waiting on the permit just because it took a little longer to get it submitted. But the earthwork is ready to go, and the contractor is ready to go.
So it looks like then that no permit has actually been signed by the chair, so it wouldn't be ratifying the chair's signature, it would be approving the waiver.
No, the permit was signed by the chair, yes.
Okay, with the dollar amount.
But not with the dollar. It was like we've been trying to expedite as every way possible.
Okay. So I signed a blank check, is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Yeah.
To be handled by the building department.
We were trying to save some time, so.
Okay. Council, discussion.
So this, let's see. How do you want us to fill in the blank, Judd?
Approximately, or to not exceed would be, say, $3,000, which would be, if it had impact fees associated with it, it would still be less than that.
Okay. So I move to ratify the chair's signature on a waiver of building permit application fees in the amount not to exceed $3,000 for the construction of a storage garage at Canyonlands Field, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Okay, thank you. Chris made the motion. Rory
Second.
would like to second the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the stunning photo.
Yeah.
This is a really big magazine.
Can I get an autographed copy of that?
I just handed him mine over there.
Yeah.
Unreal, man.
It's a good article about the airport.
It is.
Thank you.
I won't tell you what he told me.
Hey, you stumbled over the chair.
I know.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, this next agenda item is to approve a proposed job description amendments to reclassify the airport manager position to airport director. The fiscal impact of this for the remaining calendar year.
And you do have an update, yes, on the
We have an updated agenda summary on the dais. For the remaining calendar year, figured at 7 months, is approximately $11,306.81, plus corresponding increase in benefits, which is a total of $14,058.89 total unbudgeted. On May 2nd, the airport manager job description was approved, with revisions to include director responsibilities associated with the rapid growth of the airport. The approved job description reflected a shift toward more management and development work and less direct duties associated with the day-to-day maintenance. The title of the position needs to be changed to Airport Director to reflect these upgraded responsibilities, and the reclassification is a follow-up action to a recent closed session. With that, I would entertain motions.
Roy ran away. I'll make the motion.
Okay, Chris?
I move to approve the proposed job description amendments to reclassify the airport manager position to airport director at grade 25, maintaining the current step, effective immediately, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Chris has made the motion.
Second.
Curtis seconds the motion. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks to Judd for taking on, what amounts to I think, a $13 million project, something like that.
That's just the runway.
Yeah, just the runway. So, Judd's job has really jumped up a significant order of magnitude, and I think it's justified that, if one of our employees is going to undertake such a large project, that he be compensated appropriately for it.
Can I second that?
And if I could just add, our leadership committee, our team, rather, the department heads, elected officials, HR director, will be meeting Thursday, and Councilmember Wells has graciously accepted my request to fill in all of us with regard to not just the status of the compensation study, but basically a read on where the council is at, based on, I think, more what occurred in the last couple of closed sessions. It's probably where we've talked about it the most. Obviously, we have plenty of deserving staff who risk a lot regularly, and this was a timing issue. So it's all it was that made the difference, and that's all coming. We'll be talking about it Thursday morning. So just wanted you to know.
Okay, thank you.
So we will be looking at everybody else's.
Oh, absolutely, yes. There is currently I think it's in your packet, request for proposals for
Countywide salary.
Countywide.
Okay. So we'll talk about that later. Are we ready for a vote then? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Thank you, Judd. Okay. Item O is approving discretionary funds to appraise all 4 Grand County-owned parcels located in San Juan County, presented by Ruth, our council administrator.
Okay. So the council requested that I seek appraisals and for the Red Rock Speedway. That is in motion. It's happening, and so we need to just be sure how to fund it. So the 40-acre parcel would be $2,250. That did come in lower than some other quotes. And who I chose to use was the person we're already using for Grand County commercial appraisals being done, which you all approved. The company is called The Appraisers. You've approved that recently. So it was not in this company or this person's purview to go into San Juan County under that contract. So this is a whole separate deal. The additional $1,125 is to go ahead and appraise the remaining 2 parcels that are located in San Juan County. So for a total of $3,375. So the motion would be to approve discretionary funds for that. Your discretionary funds account starts with $20,000 at the beginning of each year. I think maybe something has been spent out of that, but I know we have plenty to cover the $3,375. The report should come out mid-June, so we will be able to get something to you.
Okay. Thank you. Chris?
I move to approve expenditure of discretionary funds in the amount of $3,375 for professional appraisal of all 4 Grand County-owned parcels located in San Juan County, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Chris has made the motion. Do we have a second? Evan seconds the motion. Any more discussion? Questions? favor? Let's see, 5 in favor, all opposed? Oh, are you in favor?
No, I was distracted by the citizens that are...
Sorry, I'm not on the council, so I
I'm
can
sorry,
wait
no,
to
go ahead and ask.
Well, it was last year sometime when, some entity wanted to lease the Red Rock Speedway, and there was a lot of discussion. And one of the things I remember, so I was just wondering if I'd missed that, the term. Lynn Jackson had suggested or thought that it might, this property that the Speedway's on, I don't know about the others, might have been, given to the county under the RCA by the BLM, the recreational and public purpose. You know, where you grant something for a public purpose to the county for some reason, I don't know, if it's related to the airport or what. And so someone was gonna look into that. Did that get resolved?
You have a sharp memory,
Wow.
I did not know.
I did not remember that.
I don't think so.
I think that was purchased from a private,
It was what?
I think it was purchased from a private individual.
I mean, obviously, if we go through the sale, there'll be a title research on it. But I'm fairly familiar with the patents that happened in the 60s, and I'm pretty sure that's not one of them.
I will file it.
Yeah.
I'm almost 100% positive.
Yeah, so am I.
Okay.
We did
More
look at that.
discussion. The motion was to approve the expenditure of discretionary funds in the amount of $3,375 for professional appraisal of all 4 county-owned parcels located in San Juan County. Authorize the chair to sign all associated documents. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Item P is adopting proposed ordinance approving the amendments of the Grand County Land Use Code, accessory living structures. Zachariah.
Okay, so, just to refresh your memory on this land use code amendment, this was, one that was brought to the Planning Commission in large part because, we have received so many inquiries about this particular use, both good and bad, some inquiring, some, with, intent to, convince the county to change, the regulations one way or the other. And so, the Planning Commission did vote to forward a favorable recommendation to the County Council to allow, each single-family lot over 5,000 square feet to accommodate, one accessory living structure, that would be limited to 500 square feet, and meet setback requirements, couldn't be used for overnight accommodations. All of those details are in the amendment that was, presented to you at the last, not at the last county council meeting, a few back. And so, I will point out that, there was one change in the, land use code amendment that was presented to you in the first meeting of the public hearing. And that was that, in that original version, there were dimensions provided that would limit the, size of an accessory living structure to 35 feet by 10 feet. And, that was a mistake in the Planning Commission public hearing. That was updated to be limited to 500 square feet. So, that is noted in the, or that change is reflected in the amendment that's before you. The reason that, County Council has not seen this, land use code amendment since, it was first heard is because legal review was requested on the legality of Grand County accommodating these types of structures. And again, these are structures that do not meet the International Residential Code, which is the building code standard that the state and, by default the county has then adopted as governing the types of structures that, folks can live in permanently and receive a certificate of occupancy. So these are structures that do not meet that code or the Department of Housing and Urban Development standard. So, there were some questions about the legality of Grand County allowing these types of uses, and you've got the legal review in your red folders up there. Basically, the message is you can do this, but we have recommendations for how you can better specify the amendment. Robert has not been notified that we're discussing that today, so I'm sorry we can't get him on the phone, but if you have further questions for him, obviously we can get those to him. So if you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them now. We have received mixed perspectives in the citizen comments, so I wouldn't suggest that they are leaning one way or the other too heavily, but some good insights provided in those citizen comments. So today is the day that you can vote on it or request additional information, postpone it, however you see fit.
Council. Discussion. Chris.
Well, I can't make a motion on it, but I do have just something to say. I think that the attorney did, make some good points. I think, the thing that's of primary concern to me is that there are no standards at all for what the structure could be. I mean, literally somebody could just, hammer together a bunch of pallets and sheet metal and rent it out. I mean, there's nothing that would stop them from doing that. The issue, for me is a difficult one because I'm not really against the concept of this, but I do think that this ordinance is incomplete. And the other part of it that really makes me skeptical, is that it's one thing if somebody owns one of these, owns their own RV or bus, they voluntarily bought it, they know what it is, they know what they're getting into, and they decide to live in it. But if somebody is renting one of these things out, and somebody's just in the rental market, and they're kind of desperate for a place to live, they're not going to have any idea what they're getting into. And that's a considerably different situation than if somebody does know what they're getting into and moves down that road. And so that sort of potential for, I guess what I would call, like slumlords conditions and the complete lack of standards, if we don't have any standards, if a renter complains, then what can we do? There's nothing that we can do because there are no standards associated with the structure itself. And I think that that's, pretty concerning. And so for me, having some standards is important. And also I would, I'd probably lean toward requiring that they're owner occupied. I mean, they could rent the pad, but I don't think that, I'd want to see anybody renting them out to random people under those circumstances. That sounds like trouble to me. But really, when I was considering this issue in the past, I wasn't so much thinking about allowing this style of living in people's backyards. I was thinking about creating a residential version of a commercial camp park. And we know that we're already allowing this, and it is happening in commercial camp parks. And there's one that's right by me, and it seems to be doing just fine as far as I can tell. And so, but the problem that we have is that if we allow a commercial one, then it could end up being overnight rentals and RVs coming and going every single day, which we probably wouldn't want to do in most residential areas. But if we made provisions for the similar thing from the residential perspective for month to month instead of night to night, that's something that I'd be interested in seeing.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I make a comment? Mary McGann sent me a thing on her thoughts on this, and a couple of things that she points out is that this would have a negative impact on our homeowners insurance costs. She says that we have a great insurance service office rating. Grand County's commercial rating is 2 and residential 3. If we lower our standards, that rating will go up, and all residents and commercial buildings will have to pay a higher insurance premiums for those. So, I mean, she points out a couple of other things, but, she is against this.
It feels a little loose to me, how it's written. I really, appreciate what it's trying to address, but, I think I think if it was, approved how it's written now, we would find ourselves backpedaling a bunch. And I think that a lot of the letters of support that were in the packet, a lot of those things are in place, like the, outfitters being able to provide housing on their sites, and the commercial campgrounds that are in existence, and, having the accessory units that are built to code is already allowed. So, for me, it seemed like it was a slippery slope as it's kind of written now, so.
Do we have any motions? Okay.
May I just ask, does the council want more information on this, or, I mean, do you want to remand it back to the planning commission, to staff, or do you want to let it fail for lack of a vote, or whatever, I don't know.
Well,
But I just want to make sure you know your options.
I think that, like I say, I mean, I'm interested in seeing residential versions of commercial campground concept. So, you know, if Zachariah feels compelled to bring that up with the planning commission, you know, that would be something that I'd be interested in thinking about. But, you know, we have to take action on this specific thing too, or not action necessarily, or let it just, you know, die for lack of emotion. But that's my perspective on moving forward with the concept, because I don't think, you know, there's not a lot of options out there that we have with regard to market-based solutions for affordable housing right now. I mean, we're pretty much talking almost entirely about subsidy and deed restrictions and, you know, coercive regulation, all these different things, and not so much about anything that has to do with market-based solutions, you know, and this, you know, could potentially be a market-based solution, so I don't want to just throw it out the window altogether. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Greg, did you have a comment?
Yeah, one other comment. This is a personal experience for me. I've had personal experience with this kind of a situation before, and it did not turn out well. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, it was negative. It was a negative impact. So.
Okay, motion dies. This is your last chance for lack of a motion.
I mean, I don't.
No action. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will pass that on to the planning commission and see what they want to do.
The
Alright.
next.
I guess I did have one other little thing with that. One of the things that came up for me was Jeff had mentioned that Utah as a state only adopts building code changes every 6 years or something. And
3.
Oh, it's every 3 years?
Typically, yeah.
Yeah, but it'll be so we didn't adopt the 2016 one, they stuck with the 2015. So it'll be another 6 years, essentially, before the International Residential Code that is now in place is current in Utah. So we're always going to be behind the curve, in other words.
I guess I might be interested in if there's a way for us to catch up to some of those standards that have kind of made allowances for alternative or tiny home sort of things being built to code, and it's kind of frustrating that it's like you're saying, that we're stuck behind the curve because of the state.
So I don't want to speak too much on behalf of the building department and the building codes, but today, we don't have a minimum building size in Grand County. So if somebody wants to build a tiny home, that's just referring to the size, not to the structure type, they can do that. I think what you're referring to are the types of structures that are intended to be captured by this amendment that don't currently meet the code, but within the next year or so probably will. And I can speak with the building official about that, but I think that we're pretty much stuck with what the state does. And I don't want to launch into any discussions of housing market theory or anything like that today, but I would just note that in addition to some of the market-based solution, this one potential market-based solution, that I don't want anyone to forget just about that word density. It doesn't ensure affordability, but it's pretty hard to get affordability without it, and that in and of itself is a market-based solution. So that's something that we continue to work on, as you know.
Well, it could be if we had enough land to go around. But
you know.
everybody wants a small lot. Both the locals.
Small house on a big lot still isn't very affordable.
Yeah. Well, you know, the real estate investors aren't interested in taking care of an entire acre, and so when it's just one of those things when you make just because you go and make more density, it doesn't necessarily equate to affordable housing under free market circumstances, because those second homeowners like small lots that they don't have a lot of work to do.
Okay.
Another quick question. Zach, how did they get the little houses across from Turner Lumber? What size are those? Those are pretty tiny.
I don't know how the city approved those in their land use code, to be honest. I think that it's probably developed under their motel standard, or their motel land use, but they do meet the building code, so those aren't the tiny homes that would be captured by this proposed amendment. Those do meet the building code. And so if somebody were to propose something like that in the county, it would very easily be approved, if the zoning allowed it, that density.
Yeah, and in our highway commercial zone, I think tiny homes that aren't IRC approved are okay and have been built and are being rented out right now.
Yeah, currently, we're now back in that discussion, but these types of structures are currently accommodated in our commercial campgrounds. So.
Okay. Oh, we have a comment.
There was a discussion about the legal opinion, and I didn't see it in the packet. Is it privileged?
It is privileged. All legal opinions are, we have the option to release them, but until we do, they're confidential.
Privileged and confidential.
Okay, I didn't know they were when there was a lawsuit. So can we see it, or can we see a summary of it?
Well, Zachariah gave a summary, which is that we can do it because we have the option to either adhere to the building code or not. And the predominant concern I think the attorney has is that there are no standards associated with the structure.
Thank you. Because I knew you said you could do it, but there were concerns, so I didn't know what it was. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to agenda item Q then, approving proposed resolution approving a manufacturing and production conditional use permit in a general business zone located at 2281 Resource Boulevard.
Okay, so it's fairly standard conditional use permit application. We haven't received any public comment on it. You received a description of the proposed use at the last county council meeting. I will note again that this is, in my opinion, a very beneficial use for Grand County and one that I would like to see grow. Not necessarily with this particular product or industry, but in the sense that we've got a lot of potential for research and development facilities in Grand County. So this is a resolution because it's an administrative approval, even though it is heard in a public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Zachariah? Chris?
I move to adopt the proposed resolution approving a manufacturing production conditional use permit as described by the site plan and without additional conditions, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Chris has made the motion.
Second.
Curtis seconds the motion. Any more discussion? All in
Go out,
favor?
go out and get more of these guys.
Yeah. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. And the next item, approving proposed interlocal agreement with the City of Moab for jointly funding an economic nexus study in support of affordable housing regulations. Zachariah.
Okay, so, as you all remember, on March 31st of this year, you met with the City Council and discussed this item. This is an interlocal agreement with the city to jointly fund an economic nexus study that will help to inform any affordable housing regulations that the city and the county adopt. I have heard some comments out in the public that this is, concerns, potentially criticisms that this is just a study to defend us if we end up in a legal battle should the city or the county enact assured housing ordinances. I would say that is certainly a benefit of doing this study. It's a pre-qualification to adopting those regulations, but more importantly, I would just advocate for this study in terms of informing all of our discussions about affordable housing and really being fact-based and objective in terms of where the numbers are at and what's possible and what's not possible and what incentives need to be offered and what mandates can be, put in place that work for our community. So I would just say that there are many benefits for doing this study, not just the legal defense. The City of Moab has signed the interlocal agreement, and as soon as the county approves it and signs it, then I can go ahead and announce the RFP. I think that I adjusted the timeline in the RFP that's included in your packet. It was originally detailed based on a March announcement, or an April announcement, but if I need to adjust those dates, then I will in the RFP before it goes out. So I guess this is it's my hope that this is the last time you need to see the RFP before it actually goes out.
Just that we did request legal review. It is just about jointly funding. We did not yet get legal review, so I thought the council should know that. We've been waiting a long time.
Okay. Diana.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. The Nexus study is capped at a value of $80,000 to be equally split between the city and the county. They've got their own funding source for it. For the county, the $40,000 will come from the 2 years' worth of affordable housing set-aside funds that the county approved in the 2016 and 17 budgets. So those are already accounted for.
Okay, thank you. Any more? Chris.
All right, make a motion. I move to approve the interlocal agreement with the City of Moab for jointly funding an economic nexus study in support of affordable housing regulations and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Chris has made the motion. Do we have a second? Evan seconds the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. 5. All opposed? Councilman...
That was just 4.
Oh, 2. Councilman Paxman and Wells are opposed.
So 4, not 5.
4. Sorry, I missed your word. 4 in favor, 2 opposed. Councilman Paxman and Wells opposed. Thank you. Motion carries. That brings us to our consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Chris has made the motion. Curtis seconds the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sorry, I had a question about the roads.
Okay.
Does this include that, the geyser pass stuff in there?
I don't think so. Let me look at,
Does that need to be mentioned?
Are you talking about
No.
just the snow plowing of it?
That's a,
It's its
that's
own
a total,
separate-
that's its own standalone agreement.
Just wanna make sure it doesn't go through the cracks.
Yep.
Okay, any more questions? All in favor once again? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, and that brings, oh, Ruth.
Just, I think for the record, normally you would wanna read what those consent agenda items are.
Yes, you're
Just-
right.
So,
And I shall do that right now. Item S was approving a proposed contract amendment between the State of Utah Administrative Offices of the Courts and Grand County for bailiff and security services for July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. And item T is ratifying the chair's signature on the Cooperative Forest Road Agreement between Grand County and the USDA Forest Service. Any questions? Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Ruth. Okay, discussion item U, Bryony, and our calendar items and public notices.
Alright, for your June calendars, June 13th at 9 a.m. there's a performance review committee meeting, and Jalen, you're attending that one, right? Also June 13th at 12 o'clock is EDC Utah Board of Advisors meeting, and that's in Salt Lake City. June 22nd at 10:30 is the Open and Public Meetings Act training. If you guys are gonna attend, please RSVP to me. And June 30th at 11:30 is the joint city county council meeting if needed. And then also on your June calendars, which are not on there, June 15th is Forest Service Cooperating Agency meeting, and that's from 9 a.m. to 12, and that's at the Grand Center. And then June 20th, there's a public notice for an open house in regards to the environmental assessment that was done out at the airport and their findings. And the public open house will be held on Tuesday, June 20th at, from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and then an additional hour, following the council meeting. Any corrections or additions for June? For your July calendars, July 4th is Independence Day, so county offices will be closed. July 5th will be the regular county council meeting, which is a Wednesday. July 21st is National Association of Counties Annual Conference, and that's in Columbus, Ohio. July 24th is Pioneer Day, and county offices will be closed. Any corrections for July? Employment opportunities, Grand County Sheriff's Office, Assistant Food Service Manager, Corrections Officer, Patrol Deputy, and Dispatch. All those close July 31st, and also EMT Basic. That also closes July 31st. Border District volunteer vacancies, Historical Preservation Commission, Boundary Commission, and Housing Authority. Also the flyer for the annual Open and Public Meetings Act training. And special events, there is, the next one is June 9th through the 10th, and that's the Vision Relay. And there are none in July that are permitted through Grand County. And there is the RFP for the Job Valuation and Compensation Study, and then the whole RFP should be in your packet as well.
And so that RFP's been out for a while, and it truly closes tomorrow? I don't have a lot of experiences with putting out RFPs, but when I looked at this, it just seemed like the RFP, the process, the proposal process as to how that would come about is already written for the person. And I guess my understanding of RFPs was that we tell them basically what we want done with some specific deliverables, and then they tell us how they're going to do that and the cost. So it just looked like a strange RFP to me, but that's just me. Anyway, neither here nor there. All right.
That's all I got.
I think that's it, Rain. Okay, brings us to you, Curtis. Item V, discussion on retreat and budget process.
Okay, this is pretty straightforward. There's no attachments. If you all had an opportunity to read this, this is just to kind of reinforce how important it is for us to all engage and maximize our availability and attention to the budgeting process. We're part-time, quasi-volunteer council members, and it's really important because we're tasked with making some very serious financial decisions for the county, that we're all attentive and plugged into the budgeting process. And so I've been visiting with Diana, just how she usually runs the process. Not that there's anything she's currently doing wrong, but just to understand that and see what ideas may be out there to improve that process. And so I just wanted to notify you all that conversation was going on and that was the intention. Second is that there's among municipalities and other counties, there's exercises that are often held where they discuss short-term goals, long-term goals, legislative goals, just so that there's a vision and a general direction on what kinds of things we want to accomplish on the short and long term. And so that's probably something, an activity that is separate from the budgeting process, I would imagine. But it would be good to hold such an exercise prior to the next legislative session. So other commissioners typically attack the legislature with lists and goals, and it's very coordinated, and they're seeking funding. We've recently formed a bypass committee to look at ways to fund that. And there's all kinds of things that projects and needs that we have, and so we need to prioritize those and discuss funding opportunities and plan a course of attack. And so that's something that I think would be productive if we decided to plan and host something like that. So of course it would have to be a public meeting if it's a quorum, correct, Ruth?
Yep.
But something maybe a little less formal as far as the setting, and not just another death by meeting, but try to mix it up a little bit and get the collective minds together to prioritize for the county. So that's just a discussion too. I wanted you guys to be aware that that's something that I'd like to work.
How about we do it in Hawaii?
That sounds good. Whose budget's that coming out?
If it's going to be a retreat, right?
Yeah. The Grand Center's not the ideal destination for retreats, but Cisco? That's creative. Yeah, I'm not kind of a Mad Max head.
So we have in the past done these, and I think that they're useful. We went through a period of time there where some council members weren't so much into that idea, but I just kind of want to reinforce what Kurt said, is that the budgeting process really is one of the most important things that we do, and it has more ramifications on what happens in the real world the next year than oftentimes anything that we do in these meetings, because that's where we decide where we're going to put our resources. That's when we decide, how everything's going to unfold. And so I really do think that the budgeting process is very important. And we, since I got on the council in 2009, it's always been the case that they're kind of poorly attended. And I know it's difficult to make it through them, and it's an additional meeting more or less every week. But I just want to really let everybody know how important I think the budgeting process is.
I echo that. Do you have more, Curtis?
not really on that item. I mean, these are things that we can just continue discussing as far as scheduling and whatnot, and I'll keep everyone updated with.
But I do have, another thing too, and I think you kind of touched on this, Kurt, is that a lot of other organizations, they have their goals and their priorities, and they kind of link their budgeting process with those goals and priorities very specifically, and that happens quite often. But it's a considerably looser process here, like we kind of, each individual council member has, I think, in their own brains what their priorities are, but it's not often the case that we get together as a council and decide, together the vision for how we want to allocate our resources. And so I also agree with that kind of a process would be important.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good in my mind to get, the prioritizing and strategizing retreat scheduled and get that to take place prior to the budgeting process. And so, not in a rush, and we can also think about fun things like there's been some recommendations, but I think it's a good thing to do, and we're not going to agree on everything, but it's going to be good to get a general idea of how we all feel on the different projects and how to attack the funding opportunities and things like that. So I think it'd be wise to do. That's all I have on that.
Okay. And I'll just add that actually last year I believe that was exactly Liz's vision, and somehow that process got hijacked. I'm not sure how, but I'm excited to go forward and set goals and do a retreat. Thank you. And echo Chris's thoughts about the budgeting process. It's kind of interesting, really.
That's
if you like numbers.
That's what I'm thinking. Can I suggest a couple of days?
Sure.
We want to do
Fire away.
So, we have 5 Tuesdays in August, the 29th. Budget process starts, mid-September for the operating budgets. So, August 29th is the 5th Tuesday set aside specifically for this sort of thing. That would be at 9 in the morning if you wanted to keep that date and time. If we wanted to use the 5th Friday, we would have a joint meeting scheduled for September 29th. I think that's kind of getting late. The budget process would have already started.
Does this have to be on a weekday?
Yeah, I mean, not at all. It can be whatever you guys want it to be.
Sometimes, something like this, not that we want to sacrifice our Saturdays of public service, but to me, having a full day on a Saturday, that would be something I would entertain too, as opposed to, because so many of us are working, it's harder on weekdays. I don't know, does anybody have any thoughts on that? Preference, weekday, weekend day?
I'm preferable to week days, but
what about you, Rory?
Yeah, my weekends are my busiest, so.
Okay, sounds like weekdays, right?
You might want to ask the chief here.
My weekends is what I
Okay.
did I say weekends or did I say weekends?
No, you said weekends, yeah. So you said August 29th?
For a weekday, yeah, just it's an open day.
Do you have a calendar? Is that something you'd be able to make?
I think this far out, yeah. I mean, other weekdays, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Tuesday. We could do like a Wednesday after a meeting, or I'm pretty flexible. Evenings are fine with me also.
So let's soft circle the 29th of August.
Does that give us enough time before the budgeting process?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
What's the date set for the initiation of the budget process? Do we have a date picked out yet?
I like to start in September, getting the department heads their spreadsheets, but I'm gonna do that different this year. Hopefully by then I'll have set up, so you guys will have a dashboard on your laptop that you can log into and see that process, and that's how the department heads will give me their information. They'll do the spreadsheets themselves, and I upload them.
So the 29th sounds like that gives us plenty of time between now and then to get ready for that, and between then and the budgeting process. So I'm happy with that if that works for everybody.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
We will be setting the certified tax rate in July, so I don't know if you guys want any time to have a quick overview of that process, or is it something that, I mean, if we don't have
It's all Greek to me, so.
if we don't have a tax increase to look forward to, I mean, it is pretty much, status quo, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Maybe at that retreat, we could go through that process too.
Okay.
So we're saying August 29th, for a full day, but we don't have a location yet, so that's what we could.
Yeah, let's not rush it.
Yeah,
We've got
okay.
a lot of interesting ideas.
Okay.
But it would need to be a public meeting.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
there's some space.
Yeah, and in the past, I mean, we've done it in a variety of different places. I think we even did it at Arches one time.
Oh, several, yeah.
Yeah. In their conference room, just to kind of like
Not at
something
Delicate
different, I
Arches.
guess. But
I think we'll be great.
but obviously somewhere, where we can have a public meeting.
Okay. Let's talk about Coffee with Kurt. Agenda item W.
So this is kind of a response to a lot of constituents that really don't feel comfortable coming and speaking in public meetings and in front of people, and you get phone calls and emails, and it's a lot. And so this was my creative attempt to create another form of communication between concerned citizens and the county, and it's kind of more of a non-formal format. It's not an official business by any means, but I think it's a program that may net dividends for the county. So I just had a little logo done that I donated, or I'm willing to donate, and just kind of, lightly discuss this with Ruth's office and how we would market this. A lot of social media, maybe some in the newspaper, but this is just to encourage citizens to come in. We're thinking maybe once a month, the first Monday of every month, say, something like that, between 7:30 and 8:30, something like that. And hear folks out. And if we do it, we're going to have to get some better coffee, because I'm not drinking this Kroger stuff. So I wanted to raise that to you guys too, to be aware of. It's not, I'm not anticipating a massive marketing plan for this, something very minimal, and I've discussed that with Diana. I thought it would be the right thing to float that to my fellow counterparts here. If there's any comments, concerns, questions about that?
Is it only gonna be you?
Well,
Obviously, it says just you.
Well, if you're interested in getting involved at some point, I don't see that a problem, but it's my idea and my name's on it.
All right. It's all yours then.
I'll have the whiskey with Chris session.
All the time.
I'll one-up ya.
No, I think it'll be good. And if it doesn't, if folks don't show up, then fine, but it would be nice to kind of let that serve as a conduit for a lot of the different issues and things. And you hate to see folks that want to get things off their chest, but they don't like speaking in public, and they don't like writing letters. So it's my idea.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And then I'll let Curtis move on with the next two items. The first one is discussion on current economic development needs, and the next one will be City-County Joint Economic Development Committee update.
So, agenda item X is a couple of things. It's just an update. Everyone on the ongoing opportunities and circumstances of different things that pertain to economic development. I've attached Zachariah's memorandum that he put together that very well summarizes a lot of these issues, and he's serving as a liaison to these entities. Currently, Zachariah and myself are going to be attending a EDC Utah Board of Advisors meeting June 13th. We're still getting integrated as new members. That's a kind of a corporate relocation public-private partnership entity that we've joined in kind of an economic development mindset. There's a 25,000 jobs to rural Utah tour that I've shared with you guys before, the initiative that the goals that the governor set and tasked the lieutenant governor with handling. They're going to be touring rural Utah and expected to schedule a stop in Grand County sometime in August, maybe September. Zachariah is coordinating with them to make their stop a success. Councilmember Baird, myself, and Zachariah Levine had a call with the World Trade Center Utah, which was mostly them trying to understand our economic needs, vision, and priorities. They touched briefly on logistics of their upcoming tour, but this is more of them trying to feel us out and understand exactly what our vision is for economic diversification in Moab. And we also discussed the results of the ASAP process with them so that they can better understand the vision that the community has. The BEAR grant program, those demands are ongoing. We do have a list of Grand County's economic development goals that was set in 2015, Zachariah, is that right? He's got a copy of those, and him and I were planning to just update those and present those to the council for approval or discussion. They're pretty broad ranging. Zachariah has already kind of taken a first shot at updating those. So that's going on. And then the Moab Area Quarterly Economic Report is something that's been produced out of the Community Development Office that was included in your packet that just gives you a snapshot on statistics, and it's meant to give us a finger on the pulse of the current state of the economy. It's got housing statistics, job statistics. I really like that. I think that's something that would be good for that office to continue to do. And so that's it as far as these are the things that are ongoing. I mean, we first presented the 25,000 jobs tour and discussed that at the joint city-county meeting a couple months ago. And that's moving, rather quick. And so the reality is while we don't have an official economic development arm at this point, there are needs in that arena that are being filled by a combination of Zachariah and his community development office and council members. So we're doing the best we can to stay on top of them so that Moab and Grand County can optimize those opportunities for economic diversification. Anytime the Wasatch Front is down here looking to sprinkle some money around, we had better pay attention and have a seat at the table. So that's all I have on that item.
Okay. Very good.
Madam Chair, I know this is not an action item or anything, but I just want, for clarification purposes, as Zachariah's supervisor, do you all have any problem with him continuing to do these, fill these needs as the needs are there, he's filling them? Is there any issue with that?
Well, as long as there's time, but I think all I would say is that, we also have the community development aspect, which could be a full-time job in and of itself. And so I just want to make sure that, the whole concept of the job description, is being worked on. That'd be the only thing that I'd say. But as long as there's time, I think that's great, and we really appreciate it.
Okay.
That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
And a lot of the World Trade Center, a lot of these entities that we need to have representation to, Zachariah was proactive in presenting membership to the council and being a point of contact, and I think there's value in some continuity in that regard, and he's been on top of the issue, and he understands. In my conversation with him, I mean, these are things that we feel like need to be done, so it's less about some kind of long-term arrangement as it pertains to this agenda item, as far as just that these are being done and we need to all hands on deck to meet them. I mean, that's so. Anyways.
And that might be partially addressed as well in the next agenda item, which is also Curtis, the City County Joint Economic Development Committee update.
So we formed this committee at a joint city-county meeting a few months back, and it's Councilmember McGann, myself, Kaylin Jones, City Council member, and Amy Weiser and Dave Everett have popped in and out. And basically we just trying to determine a recommendation for a long-term structure to house economic development with an emphasis on economic diversification between the city and county. And our first meeting we looked through job descriptions. Our second meeting we I guess entered into some negotiations over costs of the office and how we would feel about funding different structures. We've outlined some different structures that we're comfortable with, and we're hoping to I want to have a recommendation, a consensus, so that we can make a recommendation or more than one recommendation with several options to both councils, especially us, prior to the budgeting process, which would be a good time to restructure. So, at that point, when we can present some options, we can identify amongst ourselves, how we address the need, get a sense of how we all feel in terms of the need for such an office, which, as you can see, there's lots of things going on, lots of opportunities, and be able to kick around a few different options. So that's our goal. When Jalen asked for this effort, you wanted options, and so that's what we're working to do is provide recommendations, but more than one option. So we've got a meeting scheduled for that committee in 2 weeks, I believe. Yes, and we're working as hard as we can.
Wonderful. And I'll just add that I appreciate Councilmember Wells and everybody's willingness to work and get down, roll up their sleeves, and work through the issues. It's great to have a wonderful team. Thank you.
Yep.
So, next would be public hearings, but we need to wait till 6 p.m. for those, right, Bruce?
We do.
Okay. Then, could we do general council reports and future considerations? Out of order. Do we have to have a motion to do that?
I move to do that.
Thank you. Second? Anybody second that? I'll let Greg second that one. All in favor? Okay, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. And let's start.
We want to let the public know why we did that.
Oh, yeah.
Probably should let them know.
So the public hearings were advertised and noticed for 6 p.m. So right now we're going a little bit out of order and doing general council reports, and we will convene the public hearing items promptly at 6 p.m. So I apologize for that. Normally there would be no wait period. And let's start with you, Greg. Mr. Halliday.
What happened? The last time, I haven't had a chance to meet with any of the commissions, so there's not a lot changed from the last time, so, yeah.
Okay. Evan.
Some state representatives made it down from up north to help with the library in its review process. They met with staff at the library, and I wasn't in attendance, but they were appreciative of it, and the staff that weren't in attendance are kind of being folks from the state library kind of modeled how to do these interviews, and now they're kind of running through all the staff at the library. And besides that, there's a lot coming up in this next week with Sand Flats and that stuff, so not too much to report.
Okay, thank you. Greg, back to you.
I did think of something. Reference the state's fire policy. The road department started doing that. They're doing a double mowing. They did Casa Valley Road last week. They did a double mowing. It's about 6 feet instead of just 3. So hopefully that'll count and help us out as far as our requirements to mitigate fire.
Very good, thank you. Curtis?
Through the Association of Local Governments, Debbie Hatt retired, who's been the director for some time, and so we sent her off at our last meeting, and we promoted Jerry Gamber, who's we've got a lot of confidence in and is doing a great job so far. And so that was a recent event through the Association of Local Governments. The Water Board, we promoted Dana Van Horn. Art took a job elsewhere, I think, in North Carolina, so we promoted within, have a lot of confidence in Dana. And we're doing some slight restructuring with the Water Board staff and creating a new position that we're going to post for new applicants, which is kind of a field manager / Dana's old job. That's the best way I could, assistant manager. And so it's kind of an exciting time. She's worked for a long time, and the Water Board has a lot of confidence in her, and so an interesting development. We formed a downtown bypass committee at our last joint city-county meeting, and there's been some good feedback so far. Ruth and I had a call with Rick Torgerson prior to this meeting, in which he offered up resources and some potential money and staff to look at options for a study and maybe acquiring some traffic data that would be helpful before venturing into a study. And so I would say that I've been more than pleased with the feedback that we've gotten since that meeting. We haven't yet scheduled a meeting for that committee. There's been a lot of historical information related to the bypass project that's been pouring in, and so I'm trying to sift through that and kind of better understand where we sit today. UDOT did express I think it's fair to say that they're excited in the possibility, but slightly puzzled because they inquired about the potential of a bypass when they built the bridge, and the city wasn't interested. And what year was that?
2004 or 5.
Yeah, 2004 or 5.
EA was complete.
But there's concurrence that it's a project that would hold value to the state and the community, and so I'm excited for the prospect and potential for that. We haven't gotten any information on the application opportunity for the $100 million that's been appropriated for recreation and tourism infrastructure, but as soon as they roll out the application, the eligibility requirements, I'm hoping that the committee can huddle up quick and determine, how we see the landscape and what projects we would want to apply for, and that would be something obviously that we would be presented to both councils and pursuing that money.
Do you know if it's only applicable to state roads?
They haven't said. And the project manager for this program, John Thomas, said that they haven't yet decided that they're going to limit it to state roads. And his exact wording is, for instance, some communities may want to invest this money into public transit systems, which makes me believe that it's pretty broad.
Okay.
But they haven't said. And it's been 2 weeks ago. So keep everybody updated as far as what we find out there. I believe that's all I have to report.
I have one thing to add just along those lines.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to jump places, but it goes right along with that conversation. I think I got an email, I think it was from Dave Sackerson saying that the road widening project on the north end of town, below the bridge, has been bumped up in the STIP, and that they're going to get to work on it next year, I think.
Yeah.
So that's good news, and I think everybody's going to be certainly happy that that's happening sooner rather than later.
That's 4th east to the bridge, right? That's the
4th north.
4th north, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the fall 18 to spring 19.
And so on the $100 million economic infrastructure grant, after a project is decided on, do you have an idea of who's going to write that grant?
No, we haven't even gotten there. I mean, we've pulled lots of staff and resources in, Zachariah, Bill, we haven't even made any decisions at all, other than that we're interested. And so.
Okay, thank you.
And there will be a presentation as well, so we'll be presenting.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I will be gone the entire month of July, so Councilmember McGann will be taking over the meetings for that time period. I attended the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District meeting. We held it later in the month. Actually, May's meeting was held in early June. And listened to a presentation by our EMS director, and we're still trying to work through recommendations for EMS's home, Emergency Medical Services home. The other thing, and this applies to the Housing Authority meeting that I attended as well, is that the Special Service District Healthcare Board has applied to the city for a zone change to accommodate the independent living facilities that have been proposed to be hopefully funded with tax increment. What is it? Financing, yeah. I was trying to think of the acronym and the words for it. And anyway, that, I saw an email today that's scheduled for June 8th. It goes before the City Planning Commission, and the chair of that board is looking for support, perhaps attendance at the meeting. And let's see. Those are the meetings I've attended. Mr. Paxman.
Well, the only thing I have is the airport is still running. I'm still trying to get some of the stuff, like TSA back and getting our expansion done for our runway. The biggest thing is we kept Judd here, which was good, to oversee all this big project that's still going on out there. The only other thing I have is not really with any of my stuff, but this last week I got to experience our EMS and our sheriff's department and some of our local firefighters. We got to experience the base jumper jumping off the cliff up there, and I was really impressed with the way they respond to that. It was just amazing. How quick everything went, and I just can't say how grateful I am for them. That's just amazing. So, anyways, that's all I have.
All right, so I've been relatively busy liaising with the BLM. There's a lot going on out there. One of the big issues I think that's probably going to eventually make it to the council is what to do about Powerhouse Lane. It's getting to the point where we probably are going to have to figure out some kind of management solution for it beyond what's happening right now. Some of the ideas that have been tossed around have been various versions of incorporating it into Sand Flats, not necessarily with its own booth, but as a part of its management. And that's been tossed around. And there's other concepts that have been tossed around about parking in different areas, or fixing the parking lot, expanding the parking lot. There's a pretty significant issue with EMS access up there, with no real easy way to turn around, and sometimes, regardless of all the no parking signs we put up, people still park anyway. And I just say thanks to Steve from the Sheriff's Office, for going out and enforcing that parking requirement, because, if people violate that, then it's really difficult to get EMS up there, which is something that needs to go up there on a regular basis. And so, it probably will end up coming to the council for some kind of decision. It's really kind of an issue that affects both the city, the county, and the BLM. And so the BLM's been holding some meetings, more public meetings, and I think that eventually we're going to hold a meeting between the city, the county, and the BLM to, try to figure out what solutions to propose, and, go forward from there. The other thing that Bill and I sat down with the BLM and discussed, it's it's over 20 travel plan amendments, and got some details on those. There's both proposals to open routes and close routes, and so I asked the BLM to give me a detailed rationale for all of these proposals, because right now they just have a table which kind of has about like a half a sentence explaining each one. And so I requested more information, and I still haven't received it yet. But when I do, I'll put that on the agenda, and we can discuss it. It also includes some reroutes in Castle Valley that, as far as I know, I think the town of Castle Valley has sorted it all out and are in agreement with the BLM about it. So hopefully that will be fairly easy. With the Recreation Special Service District, you know, we're just plugging along. Our revenue is slightly better than what we budgeted, so that's good news. It's not, blasted off or anything, but we're doing well with regard to where we set the budget. So things are looking less stressful this time around than they were last year. That's all I have.
Ruth?
Oh gosh, I'm just thinking vacation days. I don't have anything.
As usual.
Summer vacation.
Diana, anything?
Well, I will be bringing probably at the next meeting, an interlocal agreement with the city for conducting the election, both the primary and general election, because we will have a countywide, rate, election.
Can I ask you a question about that? So, do you anticipate the county having to run the city elections from here on out, or just this year?
Well, right now it will be just this year.
Okay.
Okay. Looks like I need to entertain a motion for about a 12-minute recess.
So moved.
Yeah, move to recess till 6 p.m. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Vote. All right, for those who just walked in, the public hearings were noticed to the public in the newspaper to begin at 6 p.m., so we're going to take a 12-minute break, and then we will reconvene at 6 p.m. Okay, if I could have your attention, it is now 6 o'clock, and I'd like to open the public hearing for agenda item Z. A public hearing to hear public comment on proposed resolution endorsing legislative amendments to expenditure provisions in the state of Utah's transient room tax code for the purposes of promoting economic diversification, higher education, and expanded impact mitigation. Before we begin that, I'd just like to make a couple of comments. First of all, we're a community that is at the crossroads of huge change. There are several ways to deal with that change. I know there are people who would like to see the change all go one way, and then there's another group that wants to see the change all go another way. I believe that as a community we can find common grounds to work on issues together, and it doesn't need to be this divisive. Having said that, as chair, I get to set the rules and guidelines for these public hearings. The first one is there are obviously a lot of people who would like to be heard, so I'm going to invoke the 3-minute time limit and ask Councilman Paxman to be our timer. And we will strictly adhere to that even if you are in mid-sentence, so please get your pertinent points out up front and center so that we don't have to rudely cut anybody off. Second, disrespect has no place in these council chambers, so please keep your comments relevant to what we're discussing. Third, there's been some discussion that has criticized the way this particular public hearing came about, and whether that was correct or not is up for debate. And that's not the point here. Today we're here to discuss the actual proposed resolution rather than the way it came about. The purpose of this public hearing is to gather input from the public regarding the proposed resolution. Thank you to all the public for coming. And finally, there's been other discussions about conflicts of interest. It has been put out there that I, by virtue of my relationship with the director of Utah State University Moab, should not even talk in this meeting, should not vote. You could argue about that, but I will say Steve is currently the director of Utah State University Moab. He has stepped down as of July 1st. He will be faculty for Utah State University here in Moab. Whether he is faculty or the director, and whether this resolution passes or not, has absolutely no bearing on his salary or his job status. So you could argue that I can go ahead and talk. And then if you want to talk about conflicts of interest, I do know that there are at least 3 other council members who could be supposed to have a conflict of interest because they own businesses that are subsidized by the very tax that we're talking about. So I just wanted to put that up front and center. Oh, and I am the 4th one who has a business that is subsidized by this tax. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Councilman Baird to give us a brief rundown of how all this came about and dispel some rumors.
Well, I certainly know how to cause a stir. I don't have, any problem with anybody that disagrees with me, and I certainly welcome everybody's opinion. But, I would like to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing, and make sure that if we do disagree, that we're disagreeing about what's actually being proposed. And so I'd like to address, some of the things that I've heard, and to give a quick explanation of what I am proposing, just so that we're all on the same page, and that if we really do disagree, that, it's an honest disagreement, and I'll certainly take all of that into consideration. my intention with this was to start a discussion and a conversation, and we don't have any scheduled action on this, and so the first thing that I'd like to say is that as soon as I got done drafting all of this information, this resolution, and all the supporting materials, literally the very next thing I did was send it off to the Travel Council and the County Council. And before that I had made it very clear the Travel Council is not going to be left out of this discussion. The Travel Council is going to have a specific opportunity with us. We're going to create a joint meeting. We're going to sit down and talk about it. My intention with this public hearing was to give the community a line of input with regard to the TRT that they've never had before. And, I guess I expected that the Travel Council would be interested in hearing where the community's at with regard to the TRT. I didn't really expect, quite honestly, the reaction that I got, although, having done this for 10 years, I should have been a little smarter about it. But I did make it very clear that the Travel Council is going to be involved, and they are going to be involved. And so just want to make that clear. I've also, it seems like the gist of a lot of the talk that's going around has to do with me going on a rampage against tourism or a war against tourism. And I think that a lot of the work I do is kind of behind the scenes, and so I guess I can see where people won't really understand or know, what I've been involved with. But, I'm a very active council member, and I'm always working on projects, and for the last, decade, most of what I've been doing, most of what I've been working on is facilitating infrastructure that's beneficial to tourism. In some way or another, I've been involved in helping to facilitate over $30 million worth of tourism infrastructure. Several years ago, when I was chair of this council, right at the point when the Transit Hub project and the River Trail was getting ready to go, we lost our county engineer / community development director, and a little while later we lost our council administrator. And being chair, I ended up being the lead coordinator and the prime negotiator for a $13 million tourism infrastructure project. And I put probably 9 months in, working almost overtime sometimes, trying to figure out how to get that project to go, and we were successful. And so, I've also been working with Trail Mix for years, and all of them can vouch for me that I have done everything I possibly can to make sure that they have all the resources they need to do their job. And so I'm just, saying that I'm not going to throw away a decade's worth of work, and I just want you all to know that I have been, a big proponent of establishing this economy. I wouldn't throw that all away. The other aspect of that, if you actually really look at my proposal and understand my proposal, is that everything that I am proposing hinges on tourism continuing to be successful. If tourism flounders, then everything that I'm proposing in this goes up in smoke. So it really makes no sense to say that I'm trying to destroy tourism if the proposal that I'm putting forward hinges on tourism's continued success. It has to be that way. And so I'd just like to start, to talk about what my proposal actually is. I'm not proposing to take any money away from the Travel Council, not a single dime. But what I am proposing is to expand the Travel Council's role to include more than just tourism promotion, and to take into account, the potential for diversity in this community and in our economy. And so what I'm proposing is that the Travel Council still remains the body that advises, the advisory board remains as the advisory body to all of this money, and what I want to do is to expand their role and to
provide them with more economic development tools to fulfill a potentially larger mission, which includes balancing the economy out. And that can only happen if we leverage our success in tourism. And that's my whole philosophy on this, is that we leverage our success in tourism to act as a springboard into economic diversification and to provide more opportunity for our kids and for all the working class adults in this community, you know, and it all depends on a successful tourism economy. I just want to, you know, make that clear. Now, you know, we may disagree on that, and that's fine, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands what I'm talking about here. I'm also not proposing to take any of the economic development money or the tourism promotion side and give it over to the infrastructure side. There's no part of my proposal that includes that. With regard to the side of the transient room tax budget that I'm talking about in this proposal, all I'm talking about is expanding the list of potential impacts that we can use to mitigate with this money from just 4 things, which are EMS, law enforcement, solid waste, and search and rescue, and potentially include affordable housing, water delivery systems, wastewater systems, etc. But I'm not talking about putting more money over on that side of the budget. So, you know, that's what I'm talking about, and I hope that we can discuss, you know, what I'm really proposing and where I really am on this issue. And I guess I would say, you know, if you don't like this idea, then, you know, it would be best if you had some alternative idea for how we could diversify our economy. Because a big part of the reason that we are having so many difficulties is because the gap between wages and cost of living is so high. And so that's something that we really need to address. One way or another, that's something that we need to address. And I don't want to just keep applying Band-Aid after Band-Aid to it. I want to find real solutions for it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And with that, if you would like to comment, please approach the microphone, stand there, and state your name. And Mr. Paxman will start the timer. Colin.
Is this microphone working?
I believe so.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a little hard of hearing, everybody knows, and so I'll ask you to be a little bit patient with me. The first thing I'd say, Chris, is while you're going to limit me to 3 minutes, you just took 15 minutes
Hold
pleading
on.
your case.
Sorry, just a minute. They can't hear it in the hall. Oh.
Speak right into the mic, Cole. Can you hear me? No. Yellow. Yellow.
Oh, you know, I don't think that is plugged in.
Okay.
Testing.
Yellow. Well, I don't
Can you
mind.
hear
I'll
now?
talk loud.
Hold on, let's just plug the podium in, 'cause there's not even a cord going in.
Did that do any good? Can you hear? Okay, good.
Thanks for the heads up out there.
Is that okay? Okay, good. My first comment is, of course, limiting me to 3 minutes and everybody else to 3 minutes when you just took 15 minutes to plead your case and try to argue your merits, I think is completely unfair to begin with. The second thing is that this conception that we're at some kind of a crossroads and that we have some dire consequences coming down the line is completely false. Our tourism industry is healthy and alive, and it's moving along just fine. And there's plenty of room for diversity, and I welcome diversity, and I'd applaud somebody to come in and start doing some different things. Every time I hear diversity, I say, what is that? And they say, well, I don't know, we'll have a committee meeting. I would be glad to be part of a committee that would talk about diversity. I've been in more different businesses than any of you guys have been in. I understand agriculture, I understand retail, I understand construction, and I understand tourism. What I do know right now is that tourism is the spawn of all our prosperity. And I've listed some things and I've given some things, and I hope people will take a minute to look at it. This meeting is suspectful about the way it was done, but I'm going to be respectful to Jay Lynn and not go there. But the numbers aren't right that you put out, and so I hope that you, as a committee, you'll look at the numbers that I proposed, and Diane, I wish you'd look at them and see if they're right, because what's been happening is that certain members of the council, Chris leading, have minimized how much the money is that actually comes into the county and maximized how much we get to use for tourism and specifically advertising. Because when we get right down to it, Chris, what you know and what I know is what this proposal is about. What this proposal is about is taking the advertising money from the Travel Council and using it for something else. You disguise and you're very eloquent in your wording, but you make people think that there's this other bigger cause that we can do. But the cause that you're advocating for is taking the advertising money. I don't care if we spend the other money on the sheriff. I'm glad about that. I love search and rescue. We all know what a great job they do, and there's plenty of money for that. In my summary, you're going to find out that there's $3 million in the county budget right now, in the county bank account. They've never had that kind of money before. Every one of you will admit that the county is in the best shape it's ever been financially. And the people on the city councils will admit that they have more money than they've ever had. There's excess money right now if you want to propose an economic development board or some sort of workshop to start looking for ways to develop some of our assets. That money is already there. You don't have to take the advertising money. The advertising money is what keeps us rolling. I'll just make one quick moment because you're going to kick me out of here in a second, but we all know about Disneyland. Everybody's heard of Disneyland. Well, the Anaheim Bureau of Advertising still spends $100 million a year advertising Anaheim and Disneyland. The reason they do that is because they have to keep their market share. They're not so much thinking that they're going to grow the business, but they have to maintain their market share, and that's what our advertising is for right now. I want you to understand our strategic plan because these people do not. We have a strategic plan that we implemented 2 years ago that, number one, we stopped advertising in the prime season. We are not doing any advertising during the summer right now other than our billboards and our digital stuff. We've decided to take that money and work on the shoulder seasons. And so our money and our energy is now being devoted to what we call the shoulders, which is from mid-November to mid-March. And we think that if we're allowed to continue to do the good work we've been doing, we'll make those months come up. We're not ever expecting those months to be like our prime months, but as employers and as workers, if we don't have to have this big place where we fall off the cliff all the time and we can kind of keep things evened out, we're going to do a lot better. The other thing to note is that we've lost our Mighty Five program. The Mighty Five was a state program that was implemented, and it ran for 3 years. And it was a heck of a success, and we saw this skyrocketing visitation. But it's important to know that Mighty Five program is no more. We're not going to have the benefit of that. We have to do our own advertising now. So to take away all our advertising money and start to redirect it into these hopeful things is completely short-sighted, and I almost consider it criminal. Because there are so many people that have worked so hard and so long and are vested in this community with their families and their employees and the investments that they've made to come along and try to change the rules at this late game is absolutely ludicrous.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to yield my 3 minutes to Colin Pryor.
Can we do that, Ruth?
Sure you can, Robert's Rules of
yield my 3 minutes?
I think he's had your 3 minutes, Mr. Day, but go ahead. Okay, as chair, I'm gonna say that's not acceptable.
Point of order, ma'am. In the Robert's Rules of Order and the articles, I can yield my time. I hereby yield my time to Colin Fryer.
Good, and he just took your time.
All right, fine, my time.
I would like to hear some other perspectives as well. I have thoroughly read Mr. Fryer's letter, and I appreciate his comments, so thank you. Next, Mr. Paxman.
I'm Preston Paxman. Have a question for you, Chris. Have you even talked with the head of the travel council about this?
Yeah, we discussed it for about an hour and a half.
And what did she think?
Well, as far as I could tell, I thought she liked it. I thought that she was going to go talk with the travel council about it.
I really doubt that, and I would really be surprised that you picked this meeting when she is away back east doing tourism. I find that very convenient that we have only
well, I'm telling you, I talked with her for an hour and a half.
Well, that's okay. Let me tell you what happened. When I was on the travel council board many years ago, and that's been a long time ago, Colorado decided they were not going to advertise for skiing. That was the best thing that happened for the state of Utah. We went and put an additional $2 million in the funds. Colorado will never get their skiing back again that they had. If you take this money away and you put it any place other than in advertising, all of the community will lose. At the present time, if we finish just the motels that we have, you're looking at between $8 and $10 million coming into the county coffers. You throw away tourism, you're throwing away a lot. You think about paying income, and you said that. Okay, let's talk about it. Wages have continued to go up, not because you're saying you're going to do low-income housing, because we're going to build those people up so that they're going to be able to pay for housing, because the demand on each employee has risen so high that I'm paying between $14 and $15 an hour when you go to Salt Lake and you're getting what? And you look at McDonald's, $12 an hour for McDonald's? You tell me, this isn't low income. We're starting to get higher income, and both Colin and myself and all the businesses in this town are paying top dollar for people to manage and come in and work. And Colin hit it right. Our employees are family to us. You may not see that, but we do. And we want to make sure our employees are taken care of and their families are taken care of. And it really is insulting when you think you're going to take advertising money away and put it any place else other than advertisement. I think I'm hostile enough.
I don't think so.
My name is Tori Hill. Thank you for your service. I know it can't be easy on issues like this. I understand about the percentages. I understand that you're not trying to take any of the advertising percentages. It's the 1 point. Excuse me, I'm speaking. Okay, I understand your position on that. I was a bookkeeper in Moab in the lodging industry for over 10 years. When the increase in the TRT was first introduced, most in the industry thought it would be a big deal to the tourists. Let me tell you, it wasn't. They did not even notice the increase in their tax. The last thing they are concerned about is a local tax. And I'm sure if the lodging industry were honest, they would say the same. The thing that always gets me about the TRT is that it is not fair. It is only imposed on the nightly lodging in city limits. It leaves all of the nightly condos and the rest of the county and also the lodges on the river corridor not paying their fair share. I calculated the taxes. I know.
Okay, let's let her have the floor right now, please.
Can I please finish speaking?
Your facts are wrong, ma'am.
I calculated the tax on everybody's lodging.
You better get a different calculator.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. You're being very rude. I'm sure that the hundreds of thousands of dollars created by the additional county taxes on the nightly rental could certainly help us diversify our economy and also help pay for our much-needed infrastructure. And once again, I'm sure the tourists won't even notice. Thank you. Besides, oh, and another thing, I really like a slow season. Thank you.
I'm a local business person. I'm Dottie Bird, and I've been in business on Main Street for 45 years, and every minute of that time I have been promoting Moab, and in all the time I was there, all the time that Bill Groff has been promoting tourism, all of us, the Dixie Barksdale, we haven't even begun to, all of us put together didn't do as much for Moab as Cullen Fryer did on the state travel council. And if we want to, your idea about having job programs, when you have a town that probably has 200 to 300% employment, all kids have to do to learn about a job is to walk down the street, apply for jobs in about 10 stores, and they will have about 5 job offers, and they'll learn more from every job that they have than they do in a 4-year college education. And they can learn a lot about how to produce and everything else. We do need some noise ordinances. We need to manage our tourism better, or manage the ATVs better, have them go down the highway instead of Spanish Valley Drive. The things that are irritating people, we have to learn to have some kind of solution that's logical and still have the tourists. And I'm sure I'll think of another 1,000 things when I sit down, but I appreciate all these people in the tourist businesses. Oh, and if a kid wants to really make a living here, they can open a tourist business. There have been so many people come in from out of town, which I am delighted to have, that had ideas for tourist businesses that people in Moab never thought they could ever do anything like that. And I hope it's a lesson to them that they can. There's plenty of opportunity here in Moab, and if someone has 5 kids and they're all making $10 or $15 an hour, that's a pretty good income for a family.
Thank you.
So I'm Marion DeLay, and I've been involved with the tourism industry for many, many years. I worked for the county for 20-some and enjoyed it, every bit of it. I've been listening to all of the comments this evening, and from a different there's a number of them that I think the county needs to hear some elaboration on from my point, and corrections need to be made, as Colin has said, because some of the comments have been incorrect. One of the things I would like to say, though, from a completely different perspective than this is, over the course of my time with the Utah, with the Travel Council, I was also a member of the Utah Tourism Industry Association, which works very, very hard in this state to be pro-tourism and to receive tourism dollar funds from the state's budget. And we worked year after year after year to get a tourism budget allocated annually to the travel promotion in this state. We finally succeeded, and I think what this is saying to the state is we don't need your money. So I think that we need to be careful when we make this kind of a comment, because I'm afraid that we're coming at this from Grand County's perspective only and not any other counties. And how many other counties could be hurt by this very document that we're trying to pass? So I just would recommend that there be some kind of discussion about that, and not look at it as just a Grand County level. I live in San Juan County just by virtue of the fact that I live in Moab, but on the outside of that little line out there. But Moab is my home, and Moab is what is important to us. We raised our kids here, everything. It is so important that this stay the way it is. So I would caution that you be careful about what you do with that from a state perspective. We worked very, very hard to get that passed, and this county benefits every single year from that through a Travel Council grant that they apply for tourism. So we really need to make sure that we don't kind of the proverbial, kick the egg down the road before we, try to pick it up and eat it or whatever. But I think that we need to just be really careful that way. So that's number one. Number two is my concern is that this conversation has been local, I understand, but I do have a question. Are there any other counties? has UAC, has anybody, the Utah Association of Counties, has anybody else been brought into this discussion to see how other counties feel about the impact that this might have on them? And I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't seen anything about that. I read the white paper. I didn't see it in the white paper as well. So I saw an hour-and-a-half meeting, and that was all I saw building up to this. So I would be curious to see what happened with that. And I could be wrong, and I'd be glad to have a discussion with you because I saw the tilt of the head. So I'd be glad to have that discussion, but that's just my point there. As far as the looking for funding, this is a touchy subject because the Travel Council and everybody that owns lodging overnight in the county, the city, no matter where you are, tourism tax is your responsibility to collect. You don't pay it, you collect it, and you report it back, and it is the means of tourism promotion in this area. Every single person is supposed to do that. This county is fully aware, because I made them fully aware years ago, that there are many businesses out there that are not doing the reporting. They're collecting and they're operating, but they're not doing the reporting. If that was an ordinance, that they had to do that, and there was somebody paying attention to it, I can guarantee you there would be much more collections than what you currently have.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Adams. I'm a local business owner and also involved in 2 nonprofits. I hope everybody commenting actually read the resolution, because it very clearly says not transferring more money away from advertising, but rather expanding the messaging to include drawing in people for additional beneficial things such as higher education, local manufacturing opportunities, and entrepreneurship, as has been the backbone of this region forever. So I think that a lot of the comments I'm hearing are skewing it perhaps in favor of some that own tourism and hotel lodging industries. I'm strongly in favor of this resolution because I think we need to expand our ability to fund the full range of impacts of tourism. That includes looking at our water supply infrastructure, our pipes, our actual in-the-ground water. We have a USGS study that's been in the works for 2 years, coming out sometime later this year, that's going to settle a lot of questions, hopefully. And then we'll see, is there need for developing other water sources to fuel this growth in our valley? And if so, those are going to be very expensive. If you're looking at Tens Lake, Mill Creek, or the Colorado River as the water source for your future development and supply, how are we going to pay for that? Should tourism pay for that? We look at our records across water use, across taxes, and across solid waste districts, 2.5 to 3.5 times more in peak season than normal season. So we're looking at 2.5, 3.5, possibly even more impacts from tourism on our commonly held infrastructure that we really need to consider. How are we going to pay for that? And so I think in going forward, I'm strongly in favor of how it's worded, keeping advertising, expanding the vision and mission of drawing people in here for other reasons that then in turn supports tourism. Let's have some knowledge-based economy that brings in conventions in the shoulder season so that we're not adding to dust pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, but instead bringing in other people that can share knowledge, form consulting services. I wonder how much of the money associated with current development goes out of the county, out of the city, because we don't have the engineers, the planning services, the geotechnical people to provide those services locally, and instead we bring in consultants from all over the state and the West to perform those services for us. So I think this is a wonderful idea. We need to look at ways to diversify our economy and being willing to mitigate the full range of impacts from water supply, wastewater, stormwater management, urban heat island, dust pollution, while acknowledging that, yes, tourism is an amazing benefit to this community.
I'm Dave Beerscheid. I've been here 64 years. That's probably longer than most, but maybe a couple not. And I was the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, president of the Chamber of Commerce, and on this city council when the uranium industry died. There were 10 houses in my neighborhood that were vacant. You could pick them up for $500 and $28,000 note, you got them. So the good old days weren't always so good. As chamber president, they came down and interviewed me, and they said, what are you going to do, Dave? Moab's dead. I said, yeah, for right now, but I'll tell you what, we're going to mine a renewable resource, tourism. So we started that ball rolling. People like Colin have come in and done nothing but improve the way Moab is seen in the world because of the way he is and because of what he's done and in what he's invested. Now, as TRT goes, so does sales tax, so does property tax, so does all of those taxes that go along with success. You're gaining as well as we're gaining. So trying to take a little from Robbie and Peter to come over here to Paul, I disagree with one thing in your note, that you couldn't scrape up $100,000. In a conversation I had with the city, they have so much money to put in their capital reserves, they can't do it. They have to put it other places. There's never been revenue like this. We had a $2 million budget in the 80s, and we robbed Peter to pay Paul just to keep the lawns green and not to die. So what I'm saying here, you've got the money, Chris. I agree 100%. We should pursue the college. We should pursue, I don't think you're going to make widgets unless widget makers want to come here and make them. You know, you can't force feed that sort of a thing. Diversity is here. There are people that I deal with every day that are designing clothes and selling them all over the world. Very successful people. There are people on the internet. We have one of the best backbones for internet in probably the state and the country. We have so many entrepreneurs in this community. I don't think you're going to take this pot. Now, I think you started this conversation to stir the pot because you know that the other counties and the state legislature isn't going to go along with this. Now, that's okay. Let's talk getting together on a one-on-one basis and do like Colin said. Let's put a committee together. I'm more than willing to do it. I've sat on a lot of committees in my time. And let's start truly talking about low-income housing. And let's start talking about trying to really get the college. And let's do those things, okay? But I think this is barking up the wrong tree. I don't think it's going to work. And I have to say I'm against it. Thank you.
Next.
Hi, my name is Doug Sorensen, and I own a business here in town. It's the Portal RV Resort. And for the last couple of years, it's been kind of exciting to see how the growth of our business has taken off. We employ around 20 to 23 people. Our people are with us year-round. We're 365 days a year now. When we first started our business, that wasn't possible. We had to lay people off and bring them back. We're grateful for that. We're grateful for the growth that's happening, and we are definitely a tourism-based property. That we rely on that marketing, that advertising, not only to keep Moab growing strong, but to keep our business and our employees going strong. I will let you know that we have people now coming from Park City, Utah, to work with us here in Moab because the pay scale is so much better. Our employees are kind of in the same situation. We started around $15 an hour and up, and which is enough for them to live in Moab and enjoy this beautiful area. I'm concerned about my employees. We love them. They're family to us, and we don't want to see them hurt as we don't want to see Moab hurt. And I feel like there are other means to solve some of these situations other than dealing with that particular tax. And again, too, I would love to sit on a committee and talk about the growth and the master plan of Moab and Moab City. So I oppose it. Thank you.
but we're cutting you off mid-sentence, so.
That's okay. I don't blame you. I've read your proposal, and I appreciate what you're thinking of doing, but I think it's the wrong thing. In the desert, we have an old pump that needs primed out there. It used to be out by Dubinky. And you'd always keep a quart of water right there, and you'd say, always fill this quart of water before you leave. Because if you don't fill the quart of water before you leave, the next guy can't prime the pump. All that tax is doing is priming the pump. That's what it's doing. Leave it alone. Keep the water in the quart so it'll prime our pump. We need that. Okay? As far as our revenues go, we create plenty of revenue here, and your budgets do look better than they have. For as long as I can remember, I've been following politics and was chairman of the Republican Party many years ago. Like Dave, when he was on city council, I was chairman, and Moab was falling apart. And I had to take a job in California because of it. And that's what I did. I came back, of course, and looked at the benefits that are here. I've known Colin since he came to town, and his vision was amazing, and what he's done is amazing. But he's not alone in that. There's multi-hotel owners here. I remember when JJ bought his first hotel and then started working it and has built other hotels. We don't have an issue here. What we have is a lack of vision, in my opinion. And we have diversity, and we have this big divide that we're thinking he's against me and I'm against him. That's not the case at all. What these people work for at $15 an hour is a $30 an hour job if you want to use two incomes. We need to change our zoning. We need to get smaller lots. We need to get residential going again. We need to put trailer parks where trailer parks can be put, except for in highway commercial. You want affordable housing? I'm going to tell you what that is. That's a 10-wide, 1957 New Moon is what we came to Moab, Utah in, my family, in 1972. And we worked in the mining industry. And yeah, it was all single. It was all about mining. That quit. That went away. And that mobile home somewhere in a wrecking yard probably. But it's gone. And all that's gone. But a lot of kids that I knew in school, in high school in 77, got a trailer house. That was the first house. I don't know what's wrong with the trailer house. You always know when everybody's home and you know what the wind's doing. So there's really no problem with a mobile home. We can build mobile home parks that are fantastic, and I can provide that mobile home with the lot if you let me get the lot sizes in this county. You talk about diversity. I tried to bring in a rail yard. I got beat to death on that rail yard. Never happened. This county said no. We tried to bring in ponds and more ponds and pipelines, and we were told no. As a matter of fact, you went to the point where you even wanted to have your own Department of Environmental Quality because you were so upset about it. This county, this very council. And you want to talk about diversity? It was coming, and you just slap it in the head. That rail yard could be out there. It's not. It could be. And the revenues off of that could be. So I don't believe when you say diversity. I don't believe that because I don't know what that is anymore. That's about private business, and private business will come, just like Dave said. They're going to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
I'm Brian Merrill with the Moab Adventure Center and Western River Expeditions. I've been trying to figure out what I can say that hasn't already been said here tonight. When I first started coming to Moab, put myself through college guiding here. It was when those $500, you could get a house for $500. I didn't have two nickels to rub together, so it didn't make any difference. But I often wish I could have bought some of those houses with $500 down, but fortunately the timing was off. But our business has gone from one that had one year-round employee with benefits, and that was me. Yeah, just as recently as 20 years ago. And now we have far north of somewhere between 20 and 30, probably 26 currently, year-round people in Moab who get health, who get dental, who get retirement benefits. All of our seasonal employees get retirement benefits if they want to take advantage of it. Before Obamacare, they even got some health benefits, but now they won't let us do what we used to do, providing a bit of a subsidy for them. So the characterization that our industry is somehow, I don't know how to, it often gets characterized as second class, second best, and also ran, it's all right, but it's not oil, it's all right, but it's not construction. It doesn't provide the high-paying jobs. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. They may not be $100,000 a year jobs, but they're steady employment, and a lot of it is year-round, and more as Colin was talking about, our season has expanded, and we've been able to add more and more employees who, if they're not year-round, they're awfully close, and they're doing fine, and they're happy. And our average tenure of our support staff employees now is over 10 years. So, and we have many who've been with us for 20, 30 years. So, I think that's remarkable, and I don't think we're the only business in town that's that way. My fear is this, and I get it. I get it that it's trying to just redefine what the tourism part of this formula is and what that office can work on. But my fear is that any message you send to the state, and this was already said here, but about reallocating that or shifting priorities or what can be done, the state's going to say, wow, Moab's got all the money they need, obviously. We don't need to help them anymore. And that's the wrong message to send to the state. I look at two different things. When 9/11 happened in 2008, market crash happened, our business made the choice to put our foot on the gas and expand and ramp up the advertising. And we were able to do that because we had been advertising hard and fast all along, even during the great times. The late 90s were just gravy train for us. And we kept our foot on the advertising pedal. We could have pulled back the way a lot of people did, and when the recessions came, we were able to weather them. Hardly a blip on our radar. And that's the same thing. It's not always going to be perfect. If we take our eye off the ball marketing Grand County, we'll come to regret it. We will come to regret it. And if we take the travel council and make them do other things other than what they're busy full-time doing now, I think we're gonna rue the day that we did that. Colin is a big proponent of expanding the season into the winter, and I can tell you, I replaced Colin on the Utah Office of Tourism Board, and that was his plea to me as I came on was to carry the torch that he'd been carrying and bring the money to the Red Rock country and try to keep it away from the skiers and make sure they don't take all the advertising money, and that's what I've tried to do. And I can tell you that the state is sincerely working on trying to support Moab's efforts to expand its winter season, to make it so more people can have year-round employment, year-round meaningful employment with benefits, and that's the way we're going to do it. That's the way we're going to do it, is by focusing on those shoulder seasons in the winter season. And the state is fully on board with that. Our very last board meeting that we had, that was a huge topic of the discussion. They're aware of what Moab's trying to do. They're aware of what other communities in the state are trying to do. And I don't ever want to send a message to them that Moab has enough money, because we don't. We don't. The time will come when we don't. So.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you.
Anyone else?
Council, my name is Des Barker. I'm not from Grand County, but I feel like I'm an adopted son. I'm a former economic development director for a county. I'm a former business recruiter for the Economic Development Corporation of Utah. I've recruited companies to the state, and I've spent 25 years at the state capitol lobbying on behalf of the Utah Tourism Industry Association to create a tourism economy in the state. I've been the guy that's gone to the legislature to talk him into creating the dollars, both at the state level as well as supporting the local dollars and protecting proposals to pull away, let's just go tax the tourist so that we can benefit the resident. Even this last year we had a proposal that did that. Okay, there was a new statewide transit room tax that was passed at the Capitol in order to fund outdoor recreation grants. Now it's a great laudable goal, but a lot of residents benefit from outdoor recreation grants along the Wasatch Front. It isn't just tourists, and it isn't just hoteliers and visitors that need to be paying into that tax. Same type of an example here. You've got a laudable goal for going after diversifying your economy. The funds, though, are mistakenly your proposal to go after and use transit room tax, which is your seed corn. to go back in and to be able to go promote that recurring visitor has the halo effect in your community of having people come to your community that look at your community very differently than just a tourism community. And I've seen this in Summit County, I've seen it in Salt Lake County, I've seen it in Weber County, and a number of Washington County, where people that come and visit, they maybe didn't think about having a type of business, okay, that isn't tourism oriented. But the 25,000 jobs that the governor is going to try and push into rural Utah, most of those jobs are going to come from somebody along the Wasatch Front. They're not going to come from, oh, we got somebody from out of state that's going to create a widget factory and bring capital investment and all of a sudden show up in rural Utah. Most of those jobs are going to come from somebody that came here and recreated and said, I want the quality of life that you have. And that quality of life is driven by having a very vibrant tourism economy, having the shops, having the vibe and the feel that you have going down Main Street. And I understand the growth pressures that you're under. And I understand a lot of other communities in the state are dying to be able to have the kind of pressures that Grand County and Moab have right now, particularly in rural Utah. I would just encourage you to be very careful about your proposal taking it to the Utah legislature. I deal with them every day. I'm up there every day during the 45 days of the legislative session, working on behalf of protecting the tourism industry as well as a few other industries in the state. But when you open up a piece of legislation at the state capitol, hold on to your wallet, because it gets crazy and things start to change. And while you may have a proposal to say, let's just go use it for some water infrastructure, everybody else has got a new idea that they want to go open it up to. And pretty soon, while your specific proposal may not be to take more than the third to reallocate it, other people have very strong interest in taking more than just a third and using it for resident benefit along the Wasatch Front and in other areas of the state, that all of a sudden you've lost control just being small Grand County to go forward with it. So I would just really encourage you to be really thoughtful and careful before you take that proposal to the Utah legislature. I think it would have a significant challenge to get passed. I don't think that most of the other counties would be interested in being supportive of that, but just be very careful that you don't lose control of it by wanting to solve one problem on one side and create a whole bigger problem on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Carol Mayer. I am a resident. I do not, I'm not active in the tourist community and the tourist business, but I am affected by it as a resident. Someone needs to bring these questions to the community, and I appreciate what Chris has done to at least bring it. The tourist tail is wagging the dog. It's wagging it very successfully. Oh my God, we do not lack for tourists. We do not lack for the money that is coming from tourists. I think even if we put a cap on tourism right now, everybody in town would still be doing really well, because this has been a banner year. And if this banner year is going to be, go to next year and to the year after, we're doing just fine. But someone needs to speak for the infrastructure, the water, bringing these questions to the table. Don't crucify the messenger. The message is we need to discuss these things in this community because it's running away from us. We have things called carrying capacity. No one ever talks about that. What are our upper limits? How do we do for everybody and have upper limits that protect everyone that's here, not just hotel owners and developers and realtors? How do I can't park at the post office. I can't. Those are just little. That's just a silly little thing, and I don't have all. I'm not the numerical wizard, and I can't give you all the information that you may need to be pro or con. But someone needed to bring this to the table, so at least we can start the conversation. If there was no conversation, there would be it would just run away. It would be just gone. It would be out of our grasp before we know it. And it's almost out of our grasp now. So I thank you, Chris. I thank you all for participating and listening. And let's keep the conversation going. Let's figure out how to do the best for the city and the county and the visitors. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Neil Clark. I just wanted to come up and speak in support of the resolution. I've heard a lot of comments tonight, and many of them really aren't touching on the substance of the resolution whatsoever. I'm hearing a lot of fear about tourism money being diverted, and mainly from people who are extremely vested in that economy, for sure. But really, I think what this comes down to is local control and local decision making about where we want to see this money go, what we would like to see our community grow into. And I think that, when I read the text of the resolution, and that's what I'm basing my analysis on, I don't see this gutting of tourism. I don't see gutting of the Tourism Council. I see increasing opportunities for the community. And so, I think there are, strategic considerations to have when we talk about legislation. But I think that you can live in fear of even approaching these ideas and bringing ideas to the state legislature forever. And I think if the community wants some options and wants some opportunities that we don't have right now, this resolution goes in the right direction. And I think when you really focus on the text of the resolution, I think a lot of the fears that we've been hearing tonight really aren't borne out by the text of that. So appreciate the council, and I think there are a lot of other people here in support of the resolution who may just not be speaking tonight as well. So thanks.
Hey, Neil, I just want to let you know I got a SUA guy quoted saying local control.
Certain context, Ken, certain context.
The microphone is free. Is there anybody else? Okay. Oh, here's one.
Hi. Thanks for hearing us. Thanks for having a public meeting. I just want to say that
State your name, please.
I'm Emily Stock.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I am in full support of the resolution and of the conversations that this is bringing to the table. I personally feel like, on peak seasons we're just drowning in tourism, and there's a lot of opportunities that I think could be had to support the residents that feel run over by our vast and albeit abundant tourism industry. But as a small business owner, I don't really care about that, and I care more about quality of life than about the profit of the many hotels that are continuing to be built. So, thank you.
Okay. Oh, one more.
I am Deb Selecta, and I just want to say I'm here strictly because of the tourism. We were here on vacation, found out that there was a shop that was ready to close, and my husband was totally appalled by it. He couldn't believe that there wasn't anyone in town that was willing to purchase the shop, and the shop had actually been for sale for 4.5 years. And it took someone, my husband and I, from Maryland to come and relocate here. I'm here totally on my own. My husband still is in Maryland, to have a shop here. And what the shop does is it's truly 100% community. So you have a tourist coming who buys a home, bought 2 homes, pays property tax, and then does everything that they can for the community, outreach to all of the nonprofits here for all of the quilts, the any type of clothing, pillowcases, anything that the nonprofits need here, the money goes out. And I work more on community outreach here than I do with selling. My whole thing is just, I eat peanut butter sandwiches in the wintertime because the locals are just here and the tourists are not. I am part of that committee that Elaine and the chamber's getting together to try to get more money coming in, more tourists coming in between November and March, because we really need the tourists at that time, or else I'm sunk in the water. And so if we cut back on the tourists, I'm sorry, I'm moving my entire business back to Maryland. I wouldn't be able to survive. It's just that the truth of the matter. And I just am always baffled. I always hear about Moab. We need to do this and we need to do that. And when I ask the Moabites, well, why don't you do it? They go, oh, nobody will listen to me, or nobody will do this, nobody do that. Why does it take someone like me who's from the outside, someone like my husband, who could see instantly, and I mean we bought the business instantly. I have a witness to that in this room, okay, that there was a great need to have my business here. And I think that is part of the problem, is everybody's always, it's so apathetic so much. And for me, that's part of the problem, okay, because it just doesn't solve itself. So thank you again.
Thank you. If there are no other comments from the public, I will turn the time over to the council. If they wish to share any thoughts, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And I will say that I did ask Councilman Baird to take some time to explain the resolution, because he was the creator of it, and so that wasn't really his public comment 3-minute time period. Any council wish to speak? Evan.
I've heard a lot of opinions tonight, and I appreciate everyone coming and being part of the conversation, and I think that it's important to keep the conversation going, and for the most part it's very civil. As a new council member, I was nervous to see a room full of folks and folks standing in the hallway. So thank you for being part of this and for being open and honest and willing to participate.
Thank you. Curtis, anything?
Yeah, I'll say a couple words. It's you hate to see it be so divisive, and I've been saying for a while that these, and I hate to feel folks feel so defensive, because I come from a natural resource development background, and we get kicked in the teeth all the time. We pay a lot of money into infrastructure, and they're very high-paying jobs, but it's very cyclical, and so it's boom and bust. But it has its own strengths and weaknesses. If you're relying on that solely, it's going to be very negative. People will get hurt. Tourism has its own strengths and weaknesses as well. And I don't think, for anyone to say that it's absolutely perfect, no economic system is absolutely perfect. But what we'd like to do is line our tool belt with as much as possible. How we do that, it's touchy. Economic development is a tough program. A lot of counties and cities fail. We've been working to, if y'all had been here for the regular meeting, we had updates on an economic development initiative that we're working on to intercept a lot of the efforts by the legislature and the governor to develop economic diversification. So we are working. We're aware of it. It would be good to have some more constructive thought into how to close some of these gaps. But I think it's fair to say that the county's not interested in hurting tourism and taking money away from the promotion of tourism. That's the gold. That's the egg in the basket right now. That's the economic engine that's bringing the money in. And so, but people put a lot of work in their businesses, and they rely on this money. And so when people put something on a piece of paper that talks about that money, it's scary. And so I can understand the concern. But we need to be careful not to limit ourselves. Nobody's going to declare that we're going to stop just at tourism or just at natural resource development or something like that. We owe it to everybody to explore new opportunities so that we can be more balanced and reliable. And we can do it without hurting the other sectors. And so those are the conversations that we're having and that I see as being productive, so that folks don't feel like their legacy and their hard work is being challenged and discredited. So that's certainly not the intention of the county. And I would encourage people to get more involved. We've got a lot of interesting things that we're working on. We do have an economic development committee that's looking how to fund an actual economic development office to work to balance the economy. You know, this county has disbanded from an infrastructure coalition that funds economic development and provides money for infrastructure. So, you know, I think it's important that we hold ourselves accountable to that as well, and that we're not sending mixed messages to the state in that we want to pick and choose. And so, you know, we need to have an honest conversation with ourselves as far as what are the real opportunities for economic development, but the key word is diversification. Everybody knows that, I would hope everyone should feel that they don't want to see Moab turn into another resort town, so that the workers have to live in Thompson and LaSalle, and we have another situation on our hands that's similar to Telluride or something like that. That's not what I want to see. I'm supportive of tourism businesses. I'm active in tourism businesses, but this doesn't have to be another resort town. We can have a tourism economy that's sustainable, that's successful, but I think it's irresponsible to point the finger and discredit each other's economic activities and say we're going to limit ourselves just to that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Greg, did you have anything? You didn't respond, so I didn't ask you specifically.
Well, I've just been sitting here listening. I've heard a lot of good ideas. Whatever we come up with in the future needs to be brought together with facts and coming to consensus on where we want to go. I see both sides of it. I get a lot of emails from people that are fed up with the neighbors that has an overnight rental, and some guy's coming in with a 40-foot trailer, and he's got 3 Jeeps on it, and he's parking in the road. And then when they're not running around in the mountains, they're racing up and down the road. Okay, so you got people that are upset about that. I'm hearing from people who say, I came here because I wanted a nice, quiet place to retire, and somebody's putting in a B&B next door to me. Okay, so we're looking at a lot of changes that are happening very fast, and people get afraid when things happen like that because they feel like they're losing control. So wherever we go in the future, we've got to do it so that we're talking to everybody that's involved, so that everybody has a say, everybody works together to come to a conclusion where we want to be. I've lived all over the world. I spent 34 years in the military. I've seen a lot of places, and I've seen a lot of problems. And I know that we can work those out here. I know that we can find solutions to our problems. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Either of you two?
I'd just like to say, as a business owner, just listening to some of the comments tonight, I just think we all just need to be careful what we do, like everybody said. So I think we need to just be aware of what we're doing and make sure we get all together and just be careful.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for coming out. I really honestly appreciate your feedback. And like I said, I wasn't kidding when I said that if my proposal ended up hurting tourism, that the whole thing would just go up in smoke. So it's important for me to hear from all of you. But what I appreciate the most are the folks that said they're willing to step up and help out. And I'm hopeful that we're all in agreement that some diversification would be a good thing, and that more higher education opportunities would be a good thing. And like I say, if this isn't the right way to go about it, then let's talk about what is the right way. Let's make it happen. And because I really believe that a diversified future is a better future for us. And so I guess this was a kind of rough way to kick off the discussion, and I apologize for being untactful about it. But I really want this discussion to carry on, and for us to figure out ways to provide as much opportunity for our kids and ourselves as possible. And I would appreciate, all the help I can get on that front. So thanks for coming out.
And I will just say that one of the things I love about this community is the passion. I have loved hearing and witnessing the passion tonight. I know many of you on a different level, and I know that you're also passionate in other projects that help people in this community, and I appreciate that too. And having said that, I am now going to close this portion, the verbal, give your comments in public portion of this public hearing, and leave it open for written comments until June 14th.
Well, I'd like to, I guess, did you mention
Well, yeah, this is not typical, but Councilman Baird does have a motion to make, so.
Well, the motion that I'd make is just to leave the comment period open, just period, and to schedule a joint meeting with the Travel Council, and just discuss issues that are relatable to this. And like I say, I'm open to a wide variety of solutions, and I'm hopeful that the Travel Council, who are a board of highly successful business people from a diverse background, can help me and help us figure out how to get some diversity happening around here, and to discuss, what can we do to provide more opportunity for our kids with regard to higher education and vocational education too. So, that's the conversation that I'm interested in starting and continuing, because I think that a diversified future is important. And so that's the motion that I make, is to just schedule a meeting with the Travel Council. That was a long motion, huh?
Could you consolidate that motion, please?
Sorry, I started into the discussion without getting a second. My motion is to leave the comment period open with no defined close, and to schedule a meeting with the Travel Council.
Okay. Chris has made that motion. Do we have a second? Evan seconds the motion to accept written public comments through June 14th and to schedule a joint meeting.
Not through.
What's that?
Just leave it open.
Indefinitely. Okay.
Well,
cool.
this is not a legal public hearing, and so people can always send us a letter forever on anything you want.
It's true,
just
and
so
we
you
read
know.
them all. Okay, all in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you to everyone coming out. You're welcome to stay for the next public hearing if you wish.
Nobody cares about my public hearing. Nobody cares about my public hearing.
I see a few that are stay.
Believe me, I took note when you said you'd be willing to help out. So
So, you know, let's get together and chat and, you know, maybe, whoever you think would be interested in joining the conversation. I know it's tough. Believe me.
I live in a double wide right now.
Well, you know, you can talk about, you know, whatever I think is going on. You know, one of the things.
Okay, I'm gonna have to put my gavel down. No, you're fine. Folks, we do have another public hearing to convene, so if you would please take your comments outside. And by outside, I'm hoping for the outdoors because we can still hear you in the hallway. It would be terrific. Crazy. I'm not now. Oh, what part of outside did I not understand?
Hopefully they were ready to state the legislators and lobbyists. I don't know, but we just, never mind.
You and the other mysterious council members.
They were trying to meet Chris and keep you off.
Okay. We will now begin the public hearing on item AA. To hear public comment regarding a proposed amendment to ordinance number 553, an ordinance of the governing body of Graham County amending the consolidated fee schedule. The proposed amendment is to consider removing the application fees for overnight accommodations and bed and breakfasts in the unincorporated county. Councilmember Wells, would you lead us through that, please?
Yeah, so this is a response to an update in the fee schedule that was approved in December before we took office, Greg and Evan and I. Rory was on the council. And basically, the way it was proposed and sold and came to be passed was that a $500 application fee for nightly rentals and bed and breakfasts would be charged for per application, and that monies would go to offset the costs of the software that we purchased to police illegal nightly rentals and code enforcement officer, if I'm not mistaken.
So I will point out that there is a thing on the agenda, another summary. This is from January 1st when we approved the amendments, and this was just the portion of the approval that justified the fee, so just calling council's attention to that.
So, and the frustrations through the calls and emails that I got was folks that have acquired a property that is in zoning that allows for a bed and breakfast or a nightly rental, and they're being charged a fee to police the illegal business people. And the reason why I'm asking for us to rescind this fee is as simple as it's not logical, in my opinion, to punish the people that are following the rules by making them pay extra money for a simple application. And they already pay higher utilities, they pay higher taxes, believe me, nightly rentals and bed and breakfasts are contributing to legal businesses. And so it's not right to single them out and punish them. The other thing too is that I feel like there's a narrative here that everyone that owns a bed and breakfast or a nightly rental is a wealthy person or someone from out of town that's exploiting our economy. And I think that this is bad policy that generally reflects a narrative that we're anti-nightly rental. If there was anybody that ever said you guys are hostile against nightly rentals and bed and breakfast, this is a perfect example. We just pull a fee up from out of the sky and say we're going to ding you $500, and then the justification is that's going to go and offset the illegal businesses. If local government wants to pursue new programs, it's not good policy to single out legal business people and put it on their backs. We need to budget for that within our own means. And so, it sounds off the top, hey, this is a way to offset some costs. We'll get them to pay for these costs that's going to take the county to just police this industry, but it's deeper than that. And a lot of the folks that I discuss this with, they're my age. They're in between 30 and 40, and they're working families, and they have a nightly rental as some supplementary income. And we're just going to pull another tax out of the sky and slap them with it? $500 is a lot of money. So I just think it's bad policy. We can all agree that illegal nightly rentals are a problem, but this is a poor example in my mind of how a government would create funding to address an issue.
Thank you. Any members of the public that wish to comment? Yes, please come to the microphone and tell us your name.
My name is Barbara Holcomb.
I can't believe you stuck around that whole public hearing just for this.
I did.
Wow.
Well, that was interesting. I think you guys have got your hands full. I didn't read the whole document about what this had for this $500 fee. But you're making me think there's going to be a lot of bed and breakfasts coming in if you're going to be getting that much money. How much money do you plan to get from B&Bs for the $500 fees? 1, 2, 500? I mean, that's the question. If it's only 5, then it wouldn't be enough money to go after the illegal nightly rentals.
But we have, may I, ma'am?
Yes, because I don't have any answers.
We have the ability to budget for those programs within our budget. And correct me if I'm wrong, but right now that's coming from TRT. Is that correct? The mitigation side of TRT?
I think it was split half and half between community development and travel council, right?
So to say that we don't have the money to pursue these programs is not correct.
Okay, so you mean you're telling me that some of the outgoing people put something on the books to charge people $500 to just go after people who are doing it illegally? That's what I heard, but I don't know if that's what you meant.
I need to make sure I understand your question. So
what was the purpose of the $500?
The purpose of the $500 was stated, was to offset costs associated with hiring a code enforcement officer and purchasing a software that polices nightly rentals via online listings. So it matches business licenses with addresses and something along those lines. But that's not that revenue that we're hoping to generate through the $500 application fee. That, as it was stated, just to offset those costs. It's just, in my mind, an extra task that we're justifying by saying that it could offset those costs.
Do you have anything on the books or anything that shows how many new B&Bs are projected to be coming in at this time?
That would probably be a question for my community development.
What about how many have been in the last year?
In the last year.
So, we do have some stats on this. I think that Diana produced a report that, it's fairly interesting because a couple couple years ago when we talked about this, you know, up until that point, to the beginning of time, I think we had, 13 bed and breakfasts. And that was, you know, forever. And then within about a year and a half or 2 years, we almost tripled that. And so there is a pretty significant upward trend.
Yeah, so there could be quite a few people who could be coming in. And I really don't see why they should be taxed to be policing people if there's other monies for it, because that's not, you know, I mean, if you've got money to take care of it, it's just if you have the people in place who are willing to go out and to double check, because we want to keep the legitimate bed and breakfasts going because they offer a service. Is that a yearly fee that they pay, or is it just an application fee?
It's a one-time
fee.
application fee.
Okay, so then what happens to the people who just pay the $500? Do they get the $500 back?
That's a great question. I would argue so.
And how many people would that be for?
Not very many.
I don't think it would be very many because it just took place January 1st.
So would it be 3 or 10?
We'd have to look.
Under 1,000?
Dozen.
Oh, under a dozen. Okay. So.
It's only the first time a unit comes on. So, for instance, if a unit in Red Cliffs Condos was used as a residential unit for 5 years, and then all of a sudden he becomes an overnight accommodation, their application for their business license is paid once. It's not paid by every subsequent owner. The same is true with that.
Okay, do you find that you've got sufficient force and sufficient people to be able to do the policing?
What? We hired a code enforcement officer recently, so.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
I just wanted to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Well, you just hear something and you just want to know a little bit more about it. And maybe if I had stayed home, I could have read the doc. Do you know how many documents I had to read? I was like 273 or something.
Pages.
I looked at it and I said, okay, I could stay home and watch them on my computer. I can go down and listen and then see what they have to say. Pardon?
No.
But you guys have a lot ahead of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I got a speech.
All right.
I gotta keep practice, Curtis, in case I run for something again. Just as a matter of fact, I went to the League of Cities and Towns about 6 months ago with the mayor, and there's a community up Bear Lake, and they are 100% zoned for nightly rentals. The city manager and the public works person are both IT people out of California, and I don't know if you guys looked into it, but they created a program that what was taking 3 days and 3 people to do, they can do in 15 minutes every morning. They charge, I think, $2,500 for the program, and they charge so much to set it up. So they come down and they get all your county records, they input it, and they know the minute that a unit comes online through 20, now this may have something to do with the new law they were trying to pass, 27 different sites. As soon as it hits, they know. An example is there were several people, and it's $5,000 a day if you're out of compliance, and they collect it. They don't need a code enforcement person. Somebody walks in, hits the computer, turns it on, boom, there it is, and the people pony it up because they want to be in business in that particular community. I don't know if that's just a matter of information.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know.
Is it? Yeah.
So, but right now we're not. Which funds are you referring to?
The $500.
Yeah, but we're not. That's
I'm just saying there's.
That's the that's the problem is that we're not using the $500 to pay for that. We've budgeted other monies for that. Is that correct?
It is going in. The money that we collect goes into the general fund.
Right.
And that money that we pay Zacharias half of that program comes out of the general fund. The other half comes out of the travel council budget.
So it does go. I mean, there is a direct.
Goes to offset the cost of.
Sure, but to say that without that fee, we're not going to be able to pay for this program is not correct, and that's what I'm saying.
I think because of the end result of not having to put a lot of manpower into it once it's said and done, and putting real teeth in your fines, you'll pay for the program with those people who are not complying with the program.
Right, which
that makes sense to me, Kurt.
yeah, that's.
I've never understood the $500. I've got 16 units coming online here in the next few months, and I got to tell them all, hey, dudes, you got to pay extra money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not paid until it's all signed off on, so the application's complete when they pay. That makes sense. So they pay after it gets approved?
So, Madam Chair, can I just restate my position and we can vote on this?
This is a public hearing, I think we'll vote in 2
that's right.
weeks.
Jeez. It's been a long night.
I do have a question though, so bed and breakfast currently operating legally in the county can rent up to 5 rooms, is that correct? Right. And they are charged $500. Do new what kind of fees do new motels coming online pay? Do they pay anything like for every 5 rooms, $500 or? Okay. Well, that's reassuring.
And
Thank
this
you.
is the only fee that a nightly rental has to pay to become licensed?
Well, they pay an annual business license fee. This is the one. It's like $25.
No, it's $100. $100.
In the county. And one of the reasons why we introduced, just to give you some additional context, this isn't related to the need so much as the need for a land use permit, is that it's much easier to revoke a land use permit than it is to revoke a business license in the context of state law. So, we introduced the land use permit for that reason. The fee was established based on an assessment of the costs of the SDR helper software, the cost of having code enforcement involved. The program is much more efficient than having somebody go through the hundreds of rental listing services that exist. We still need somebody to oversee the process. We still need somebody to be going through that online software program. I personally have spent probably over 100 hours just getting us set up for this program. That's unaccounted for in terms of overnight rental fees. The travel council has had staff telling me that the vicinity of 10 to 20, 30, 40, 50 hours is unaccounted for. And then in assessing or in evaluating the fees that existed with Garden City, this was referenced earlier, they have an annual fee of over $300 a year. And it runs on fees over $500 to $750. I can provide additional statistics on what other communities are doing if you'd like to see that at the next meeting. I can understand the concern, but it wasn't just picked out of thin air.
Yeah, there's precedent for it, and it's good to see what other communities are doing, but and that is relevant. But I still think it's a bad policy. Anybody that comes in that is deemed $500, what service are they receiving for that? And we're telling them your money's policing the illegal businesses, and that's not right. And one more thing is that in the county, if you have, am I correct in that if you have a development on a single plot with, if you have more than one unit on a single tract of land, say like a duplex, we're requiring them to have 2 business licenses. Is that right? They have to have a business license for each unit.
For overnight accommodation?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, my opinion is that each one should have its own business license, but that's still something
I thought I read that's currently required, because when I was,
Our land use
it
code-
is
Our land use code states that each unit is made available for other accommodations requires a business license.
So if you own a duplex, which a lot of people do in the county, and they're both sides are nightly rentals, and you manage them under the same business, it's one business. We're telling them you have to have a business license for each unit, and you're dinging them twice for each unit.
Yep. Zach, what is the fine if somebody gets caught with the overnight rental?
It's not a set fee. Our land use code states that the minimum fine is $100. And our goal always is to get people to stop the non-compliant activity. We do have to fine them, but, as we now, thought that's what was the process. I don't know if this will make a, we'll have to set a fine in terms of actually citing the fine. Typically, the fine is only assessed after, the legal case is brought, and typically it's found to be non-compliance, and so we get a citation, but, oftentimes the merchants won't actually reflect it until, the attorney takes it.
Okay, any other comments?
Just that the council should know that we do now have a part-time code enforcement officer as of yesterday? Or Monday?
I thought
Oh.
the city was gonna co-fund that for us.
No.
Did we discuss that?
We're only doing outside the county, out in the unincorporated county.
I remember that conversation. We were talking about other things, but.
Yeah, I mean, just one other thing back to the original agenda item.
Thank you, Evan.
I think that there may be other examples of businesses, and I'm making an assumption here, but I think, to get a liquor license, there's high fees that go towards offsetting issues with alcohol and stuff. And I believe there's other examples of businesses paying to police themselves. So I don't think it's a real far-stretched idea. And so at this point, without seeing a bunch of numbers or whatever, what other communities are doing, I would probably be hesitant to just scrap it and not have some kind of replacement, because it seems like with nightly rental rates as they are, $500 isn't a huge pill to swallow, and it's kind of the price of doing business. And if there is some other option of an annual fee or something like that that's lower, then I could look at some of those options. But to just swipe it and have nothing in place at zero doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
Okay, Greg.
Yeah, I have a little concern here that the people that are doing it legally pay $500. The people that are doing it illegally get fined $100.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
That's a business decision, right?
You know,
Yeah.
If I was them, I would take the punishment.
Yeah, so they do it 5 times, and now they're up to $500.
Yeah, I could entertain inverting that.
Yeah, the penalty needs to be greater than doing it for
That's what I'm saying.
honestly.
We're
Okay.
gonna change it.
And just one more thing.
Okay, one more comment.
It's still early, man.
Yeah, well, it's just, you add in insurance, employees, the cost of properties in zoning right now in this market, your utilities, and the sales tax rate that you have to pay if you're within the city right now. This business model looks a lot more fragile than you'd be surprised, Councilman Clapper. So an extra $500 getting hit over your head is something that needs to be legitimately justified, and I rest my case.
Okay.
Did you mention the tax, the fee that the authority?
No.
10%.
Yeah.
Every day.
That's the commission. That's because they're doing the work for you. That's yeah.
Okay, it's Councilman Baird's turn to talk.
Where's my
Not on
Talk
this
yet.
topic.
So, I'd just like to say, I agree with Kurt, mostly because, they're paying the transient room tax already, and this entire thing could be paid for by the transient room tax, and so they're paying it already. And, I don't have a problem with what Kurt's proposed here, and it does bother me that you charge the good guys to, go after the bad guys. I guess there's not really a lot of choices in life with regard to that, but in this particular case, I think that, we are assessing the TRT, and these guys who are illegal are paying it, and that's what we can use to fund that budget.
Let's go after the ones that are doing it.
Well, I wonder, since we're in the process of modifying our consolidated fee ordinance, would we look at that right away before this goes to vote, or would we wait until the usual system? Well, we're modifying the fee ordinance. Would we want to put teeth into the fines for the illegal? Do that between now and next vote, or are we? I mean, it has been part of this public hearing. I guess not. I guess it's premature.
Well, and you can help me with process here, but it seems like that is a major departure and would require another public hearing.
Yeah. That'd be the right way, yeah.
Thank you for your comments about the other fees in different areas, because I was feeling like we have created a pretty hostile environment for bed and breakfasts. And, that's all I have to say. Before that, I had thought, $500 is the cost of doing business. And I would really love to see the other communities, if we could get that in the next packet, what other communities are charging. That would be great. If they have data on information on the fees, the fines they charge as well, that'd be good. If that's easy to get. Yes, Diana.
One comment, as the collector of the money, people are not happy when they write that check. I've had a couple of very irate people in Matterhorn.
Wow. I'm just glad it's a one-time fee. Could be worse. Okay, Zachariah.
Yeah, just have one comment, and I hope I'm not stepping on any toes here, but I know that there is an ongoing situation where we do have a couple of property management companies who hold one business license for upwards of 100 individual units, and they have, I don't expect anyone to go out with a machine gun, right, and track people down to as best you can, who have refused to pay the business licenses for each of those units. But just from the community development department's perspective, our land use code says 1 unit, 1 business license, and it's not acceptable to, it's my opinion that it's not acceptable for one property management company to hold one business license for 150 locality residents. It's not fair to the individual unit owners that are paying those fees individually, and that's a tremendous amount of business license revenue that also could be paying for the STR helper software and the code enforcement. Property management is one business. Renting out your unit for overnight accommodation is a different business. So that's just, that's my perspective. It's more context to the overall situation, different than the proposal that is on the dais now. I think that it's important for the council to be aware of the overall situation with respect to fees and such in the overnight accommodations area.
Okay, thank you.
I disagree with him. I mean, the business is really the owner's business. The property management company is managing that business for them. They're a business manager for them. They're not the owner of that entity. So it should be each individual owner carrying that license, in my opinion.
Diana, did you get her name? She's made a lot of comments.
Oh, I'm Catherine. I'm favorite.
Appreciate you coming. With that, I did you have something else? I thought I saw your hand go like this.
And I don't have any objections to the fee government, I just want you all to know.
Okay.
And I can provide this request right.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I would like to close this portion of the public hearing, but leave the written comments portion open until June 14th, which is a Wednesday. Comments can still be conveyed to the council by writing it down, hand delivering it to the council office, or emailing it to council@grandcountyutah.net. And I believe that is it. Yes.
Make a motion
Okay. Motion.
to adjourn.
All right. Second. Greg seconds. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.